Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your President Samuel Ronan speaking, and today is Worldwide Wednesdays. I apologize for the tardiness. We were, in fact, having internet issues, and there's a chance we lose connection between now and 8:30. Anyway, so let's cross our fingers that doesn't, in fact, happen. But suffice to say, it is Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. And, whoops, I'm losing my chair over here. So, I hope everybody is already in place for visiting their families. And if you're traveling, well, don't wait until after the stream, because 10 o'clock traffic, I mean, it's going to be an early day. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you're going to drive, be safe out there. It looks like we're getting hit by another polar vortex, because, of course, we are. So, on that note, it is Worldwide Wednesdays. We have quite a bit to cover. Tomorrow we will obviously not be streaming because I, myself, will be with family during dinner time, and I will probably be comatose from eating turkey. So, yeah, we're not going to be able to... I'm not going to be able to stream, unfortunately. That said, though, please enjoy your time with your family. It's important, especially during these dark and dangerous times. Family is all we got. Friends is all we got. Community is all we got. Whatever that looks like to you, whether that's blood family or found family, whatever that means to you, please reach out to one another, okay? So, without further ado, actually, we have a new follow, Midnight 99 OG, which I'm not... Let's see. Maybe I can. Can I replay them following us? I guess not. Well, in either case, thank you for the follow. Hopefully you're watching now. I can't really tell, I don't think. Well, I don't know how to tell. But anywho, we're going to get started. We're going to get started with the Russia-Ukraine ongoing fiasco and go from there. Hello, Anna. Okay, sorry. That was probably a long... It's a good thing there aren't timestamps on the chat, because it'll just show how long it takes for me to respond to you guys. And then you're going to watch and be like, this asshole doesn't respond to me for 5 minutes. All right. Real talk. Russia and Ukraine. What do we got?
Oksana Honcharuk stares at her burned-out apartment building with the conflicting emotions of many Ukrainians who've narrowly escaped death.
I am alive because I was in the room with the balcony. The balcony cushioned the blow a little. Later, I took the dog and we ran out into the yard.
I find that difficult to believe that the balcony cushioned the... wouldn't that be the least structurally sound place in the building? But hey, maybe not in Ukraine. Evidently not in Ukraine.
And here we are. I'm wearing my pajamas.
She's still alive, still breathing, but little else is certain.
I'll be staying with friends for a while, and later we are going to decide. I don't know exactly what state the apartment is in. Will it be possible to live here, or when?
I mean, I'm going to answer that question for her. It was hit by a missile strike. But this goes back to the point of any, I don't care if it's Russia, I don't care if it's China, I don't care if it's Israel, and I don't care if it's the United States of America. Any nation's military whose military ordnance finds its way into civilian districts, causing civilian damage or fatalities, is unequivocally a war crime, not collateral damage. Our weapon systems are so sophisticated at this point in time that we can hit a target within a 2.5 meter square, which is literally this. It is literally this, right? Well, no, wait, 2.5 meters, that's 6 feet. Okay, so it's literally this, my bad. It's literally just a touch outside the screen because my wingspan's about 6 feet. So you mean to tell me that our missiles are accurate enough to hit a 6 by 6 foot square and you're accidentally hitting apartment buildings with civilians in them? No, I don't buy that for a second. Now, that being said, the way that these are getting reported, and I know it's going to be Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, it's just another thing that happens. But the fact of the matter is it's a war crime. And the fact that none of them, not Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, anybody is reporting on the fact that it is a war crime is why people don't know it's a war crime, because people aren't going to look at it. They're going to see the news and say, oh goodness, the apartment building got hit, and be like, dang, those dastardly Russians. But in reality, it's more like those criminal Russians attacking civilian districts. Those criminal Israelis attacking and arguably turning into a parking lot all of Gaza. Those dastardly Americans carpet bombing Iraq and Afghanistan, killing 1 million Iraqi civilians, right? The ramifications of these wars and of these conflicts and the perpetrators are not to be undersold in the slightest. We committed atrocities in Iraq and Afghanistan. Russia is committing atrocities in Ukraine, and the IDF is committing atrocities in Palestine. Everybody's guilty. Everybody. And nobody is being held accountable, whether within their own countries or in the international courts of community, or the international criminal court systems. So, we have to start calling a spade at this point. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point, right? Apparently war crimes are okay now. Venezuela were just murdering people in international waters. Sailors that are on those boats getting reminded by their senators that, oh, wait, maybe that UCMJ thing in the Constitution really is a thing that we should be paying attention to. Like, it's kind of crazy to me that the normalization of war crimes is literally that, normalized. And it took 20 years of the war on terror and 2 years of genocide for that to happen. I think that after we got away with war crimes, everyone just started doing whatever and committing war crimes. I think you're not wrong. And honestly, even Vietnam wasn't exactly mitigating the war crimes. Neither was the Korean War. It seemed like the United States was actually holding some people accountable for committing war crimes in Vietnam. But forget about it. In the global war on terror, those were civilians. We were fighting terrorists. Those were where they were hiding. So all of a sudden it was legal targets. And that is the unfortunate truth of 20 years of a global war on terror attack where civilian casualties were now justified.
Oksana's Kiev apartment block was hit in Russian attacks that also targeted Odessa, Kharkiv, Dnipro and Chernihiv. As well as homes, critical infrastructure was also damaged, worsening Ukraine's already weakened electricity.
Now, to be clear, critical infrastructure is valid targets. Okay, now this one, yeah, okay. So, in the military, you learn about the Geneva Conventions, you learn about the UCMJ, you learn about rules of engagement, and you learn about lawful orders. Believe it or not, you do. At least I did back in 2009 and 10 when I went through basic training and, well, every other branch calls it AIT. Now I forgot what tech school. Jeez. All right. Anyway, we learn about this stuff and we do annual training on it every single year, sometimes twice a year, depending on the training, right? So when I say that anything involving civilian structures like schools, hospitals, residential areas, parks, religious buildings. What's another one? Actually, no, that might be it. That might actually be it. Libraries would be, I guess. Universities, right? Those are never lawful targets. I think a university might be a lawful target if there is confirmed weapons research being conducted there. I think there are some circumstances where a university is eligible, but certainly not a high school or a kindergarten or a middle school, right? So the point in all of this, why am I saying this? Why am I doing the big screen facing you talking about this? There is lawful targets. There definitely are lawful targets, and those are predominantly infrastructure and, of course, military, meaning power lines and power cables, rail, roads, bridges, of course, military bases and installations or deployed assets. Airports. Yes, every airport, to include your tiny little county airport, are always considered lawful targets. And ports are considered lawful targets, and I want to say warehouses as well. And of course, any sort of manufacturing facility that can manufacture weapons or weapons of war, like tanks and artillery and all that. So there are such things as lawful targets. We're being shown an unlawful target, right? The apartment building. But the other 5 attacks were towards critical infrastructure, which is a lawful target, right? Granted, we shouldn't be fighting wars with, munitions or anything like that. We shouldn't be fighting wars at all in 2025. We should be focusing on coming together as a species and exploring space. But whilst we are waging war, there has to be the understanding that if 2 countries are at war, there are rules that they should and, well, I would say must, but should follow. And critical infrastructure is one of those rules. You can attack that all day long. Leave civilian stuff alone. Infrastructure good, civilian stuff bad, right? So the fact that this particular video is covering the fact that it hit the apartment building, bad, war crime, but also was going after critical infrastructure without any differentiation in context is a disservice to everybody watching who did not serve, or those who do serve and choose to not give a shit about the lawful aspects of waging war. So that's why this little, it might have been more appropriate to do for pressure hour, right? So, okay. Anyway, back at the ranch.
Water and heating systems. After intense diplomacy with US officials, Ukraine says revisions to Washington's 28-point plan to end the war are nearly complete, and President Zelensky intends to visit the US before November's end to nail down the most sensitive political points with Donald Trump.
Despite the many
So there's a 28-point plan that Marco Rubio came up with? Like, who came up with this plan? Because it sure as shit wasn't Pete Hegseth. We know damn well it wasn't Donald Trump. And we know damn well it wasn't J.D. Vance. He's too busy chasing Erica Kirk's skirt. So, who came up with this 28-point plan? And if there is a 28-point plan and the Ukraine has mostly accomplished it, why isn't peace around the corner? Why is Russia ramping up and engaging in more aggression? Questions, right?
challenges it faces, losses on the battlefield, corruption scandals, rising public anger over heavy-handed military recruitment. President Zelensky's administration seems once again to have turned a potential crisis with the United States around. It's now much more comfortable with the shape of Washington's deal, having viewed the first draft as little more than a Kremlin wish list.
But, okay, nothing but a Kremlin wish list. Okay, it's not the Cold War. Nobody gives a damn about Russia. Literally, nobody cares about Russia. Not a single solitary soul on this planet thinks Russia is the boogeyman. If you had to poll the average citizen globally, like Japanese people, Mongolian people, Congolese people, Philippine people, Chinese people, if you actually did a poll where the only question was fill in the blank, who do you think is the greatest threat or adversity on Earth? I'm willing to bet. I am willing to bet most people in most countries would point to the United States. I think secondly would be Israel, and then European countries would point at Russia, and America would be pointing at China. So it's like, we aren't the good guys. And probably in 100 or 200 years, there's going to be all sorts of independence days from American imperialism after it's been revealed that we've been an empire this whole time, right? So, a Kremlin wish list? No, more like a Washington wish list, because we're getting just as much of the bag as the Kremlin is. And that's That's the point that is never brought up, is America was taking advantage to try and carve up Ukraine as well. Can Pete Hegseth read or write? Honestly, I don't know. Scandinavians are surprisingly anti-Russia. But see, that I'll grant them that because of the historical significance and the proximity of their borders. But beyond that, like, I don't buy actual Russia fear. I really don't.
Leaders are also cautiously optimistic. But behind their assertions that Ukraine should not be abandoned nor its sovereignty compromised are concerns that Europe is being sidelined in discussions vital to the continent's security.
No one can be against a peace plan, but a peace plan cannot be made without Ukraine. A peace plan in Europe requires us to discuss with the Europeans, and I think I can say that we are not there yet. So
That's a valid point, too, because so far it seems as though the Ukrainian-Russian conflict is actually a negotiation between Russia and America, which we've been saying for as long as this has been going on, that this is a US-Russia proxy war. So the fact that the EU is being stifled, and not to make light of the fact that Trump has also pushed a lot of the burden of the military and funding of NATO onto Europe, which wasn't part of the deal to begin with, is exacerbating this issue even further with the added snub of America ignoring the EU and their parliament of gathering of whatever, right? So definitely a valid point to make. Certainly something that I don't necessarily think of at first when I think of Russia and Ukraine. But that's probably because I am also a victim of empire mentality. And, well, America's handling it. I thought you guys were already... No, you weren't talking about it? Whoops, my bad. Here's a seat at the table. Well, that's what they're saying. They don't have a seat at the table. Which could possibly prolong the conflict further just because, well, we weren't at the table, so we don't approve of this. I don't care what Ukraine, Russia, and America says. We're not going to approve it. Which could then exacerbate whatever peace deal is in place. So... I can see both sides of the argument.
today, we are working on it.
Romania, a NATO member, scrambled German jets based there when suspected Russian drones breached its airspace overnight. Moldovan police say a drone also crashed on its territory during Russia's attack on Ukraine. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera, Kiev.
Well, at least they didn't mention Poland this time. Okay, we're going to play the BBC News version of this. But if this is ridiculously propagandized, we're going to try the CNN version. And if that's still just as bad, I guess we'll deal with it. But I've been having an issue with the BBC presenting their stuff from a heavily propagandized way.
Says he's sending his special envoy Steve Witkoff to Moscow for talks with Vladimir Putin on the latest peace plan to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. Mr. Trump says a deal may be close, but President Zelensky has warned there are still sensitive issues that need to be sorted out. With more from Kiev, here's James Waterhouse.
In Ukraine's capital, the power of Russia's invasion is felt most at night. It is a constant threat, unaffected by the undulating peace efforts, and no less petrifying for those who survive. At least 7 people.
Okay, so this is what's known as war propaganda. You're getting the scene of a civilian getting attacked in their home, and, of course, the bombing overhead at night, which is keeping people awake because it's obviously extremely terrifying. Again, war is bad. War is scary. It's one of the many reasons why we don't need to be doing it anywhere in the world. But what's going on in Kiev is nothing compared to the slaughter and genocide that the Palestinians have been experiencing at the hands of Israel and the Zionist agenda. So, what kills me is that the BBC will bend over backwards, and CNN and every news network will bend over backwards to showcase the sympathetic version of Ukrainian suffering, but then completely gloss over the atrocities being committed against Palestinians. So, maybe not the point that I should be making on this video, but it just irks me. Greetings, Simply. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Also, actually, I don't know if, like, DMing works very well in Twitch. I thought there was a DM option. I guess I can't do it from the screen that I'm on. But, DM me your email or just check the website, because, this long weekend, this holiday weekend, I am going to upload the PNGs as PDFs onto the website so that people can just download the flyers and do whatever they want with them. Presumably print them out and distribute. So just keep an eye on that, okay? Otherwise, whisper me your email and I will just send them to you as an attachment if you wanted to get started this weekend as well. Okay, back to the video.
Were killed in Kyiv after a wave of Russian drones and missiles. Children were among those rescued at this apartment block. With dawn comes the scars of the attack. Ukraine, like the US, wants peace, but it needs an agreement that won't fall apart, and a reassurance that its Western friends will have its back for the long term. Valery and Yulia are not optimistic.
To speak about peace is all very good, but weapons are the only instrument that can help Ukraine.
So what are you willing to give up for peace?
The Russians should leave Ukraine. This is the only compromise possible. We understand it's difficult, but we will not give up our country.
And who the fuck are you, Mr. Reporter guy? What are you willing to give up for peace? How about nothing, motherfucker? How about a united European front against Russia to tell them to stand the fuck down and go away? Like, that is, like, what? What's the point of alliance and support and this, that, and the other if you're not gonna fucking do it when it's literally crunch time? What are you gonna give up for peace? I don't know, motherfucker. What did you give up for peace? If you were being invaded by an enemy country, granted, you were being manipulated by America's CIA into creating a resurgence of a Nazi presence in your country. So you tell me the U.S. was meddling in your politics, allowing the Nazis to do Nazi things. Russia called that shit out and got fed up with it to the point where they invaded your country. So now America brought a Nazi problem, and the Nazi problem brought an enemy nation to the game. So now these things are happening through no fault of your own as a civilian. As a civilian, this isn't your problem at all. This is foreign meddling. So why the fuck should you give up anything? Now, let me ask you this. America, what are you willing to give up so that Trump stops invading your country, your state, your city, with ICE and with the military, the actual military? What are you willing to give up to make that stop? If the answer is, well, he's going after immigrants, okay. So when he's done with the immigrants, you think he's going to stop once he's done exercising those extraordinary powers and unprecedented actions? You think he's just going to stop at immigrants? Well, yeah. Because he said he was only going after criminals in the first place, right? Well, of course, yeah. Once he does the job, it'll be over. Great. So, all of the immigrants that are being targeted right now are illegal criminals, correct? Well, no. Oh. And the military is doing what? Well, they're not doing much of anything. And ICE agents, are they using warrants? Are they declaring themselves? Are they trying to maintain the peace? Are they trying to de-escalate circumstances? Well, no. Okay, so what would you give up for ICE and the military to go away? Or ICE to stop trying to harass and kidnap people and traffic them in broad daylight. Well, I shouldn't have to give up anything. They just shouldn't be doing that. Okay, then. That's not how that works. You have an invading force. Somebody is invading you, and you want them to leave. They're not going to leave without either A, accomplishing their mission, or B, getting something to leave. That outweighs the mission. So what are you going to give Trump and ICE and the military so that they leave Chicago, Portland, Los Angeles, New York City, North Carolina? What are you, as an American, going to give them? More of your freedoms? More of your privacy? More of your hard-earned income and wages? Not dissenting that your cost of living is going up? Are you going to give up more of your healthcare and more of your education? Because that's happening too, whether or not you're agreeing with it. Again, an occupying invading force will continue to take until defeated or resisted, sufficiently to where it is no longer feasible or profitable to pursue those things. And this reporter had the audacity to ask a Ukrainian citizen, what are you willing to give up for peace? Fuck you. I'm not willing to give up shit for peace. I will fight to the death then. If you're telling me to give up a single solitary speck of dust for peace, when I didn't instigate shit, then I will fight you until my last breath. And that's what you're causing here. That's what all of this propagandizing causes, is more stratification, more division, more extreme rhetoric. Standing your ground. It's unacceptable. It is unconscionable to ask anyone in a war zone, especially an invaded people, what would they give up for peace? They should. That is never an acceptable question to ask, ever. What are the Palestinians? Are you going to ask the Palestinians what are they willing to give up for peace? Because quite frankly, it'll never be enough for Zionists. It'll never be enough for Israel. It'll never be enough for the IDF or Netanyahu. They want Palestinians, all of them, dead. There is no peace. There is no peace that will satisfy them without complete and utter eradication. Sure, that's not the case here in Russia with Ukraine. But Russia wants its pound of flesh. And do they deserve it? I'm going to argue no. Because with the whole Nazi thing, they should have argued more in the United Nations. They should have empowered the ICC. There should have been something to hold America accountable and the CIA accountable, right? There should have been, I don't know, something to hold Ukrainian politicians accountable for allowing it to happen, right? The Ukrainian government should have put a kibosh on it outright, but they didn't, right? Diplomacy failed. Right? That's why now there's guns and the military involved. There is never a price worth paying for peace, especially if you are the defender. Because the ultimate price to pay is your identity and your life. And up to and including that is what your attacker can ask for. And if you give in, it's only a matter of time until that happens again. Whether it's the American CIA causing more strife to force Russia to come back in, to rewrite the maps or whatever else, something down the line will happen. You got to stand your ground. But you can never, ever ask, what are you willing to give up? Because ask that question to yourself, you piece of shit. And if you have a ready answer, then you are a fucking coward and a traitor to yourself, your country, and your cause. What's this video? If anyone would like more context about the... Oh, okay, yeah. Definitely watch that. Okay. But we're not talking about the peace deal. So let's try CNN.
We are learning from a U.S. official that Ukraine has agreed to a peace proposal to end the war with Russia, saying that only, quote, minor details are outstanding now. The word from Ukraine's President Zelensky is much work still lies ahead. The country's national security chief though, says its delegation has reached an understanding on the core terms of the deal. And there's also word that Zelensky could travel to the United States this month to sign it. But what about Vladimir Putin? Today, U.S. and Russian officials are meeting in Abu Dhabi to discuss the plan. A spokesman for the U.S. Army Secretary, who's leading the delegation, says that those talks are going well and we remain optimistic. While people are clearly talking, the war rages on. Both Ukraine and Russia trading deadly new strikes overnight. Let's get to the White House. Elena Treen standing by for us at this hour. With this new development, new reporting from this U.S. official, what are you hearing about this supposed deal?
Yeah, look, this has been a crazy twist and turns to this entire negotiation over the past couple of days, Kate. But I can tell you that the Trump administration and White House officials really want to use the momentum of these recent talks and negotiations to try and see if they can bring this to the finish line. And I think that's part of why you're hearing a lot of these very optimistic and positive statements from key players on the ground. We heard similar, I should note, from Secretary Marco Rubio following those talks in Geneva on Sunday. But I just want to get into what this U.S. official told our colleagues Oren Lieberman and Natasha Bertrand. They said that Ukraine has agreed to a deal to end the war with Russia. Only minor details remain. They said, quote, the Ukrainians have agreed to the peace deal. There are some minor details to be sorted out, but they have agreed to a peace deal. That is a huge deal. We should just note, I think, like, full stop. That is a huge deal if Ukraine is actually backing this plan. As you mentioned, of course, the big question is whether the Russians could actually stomach a lot of this. Now, this comes as the U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll is in Abu Dhabi. He's meeting with Russian officials today. Of course, the goal there to see how much they can get them to compromise on some of these areas that the Ukrainians seem eager to work on. I will note that Ukraine's National Security Secretary, Rustem Umerov, he wrote about this in a post on X. I want to read this for you because what we're hearing from this U.S.
So, another nothing burger. So, and I just have to tie it back into Palestine and Israel. Israel and America come up with a peace plan that Palestinians have no choice but to go along with. Right? Like, that's not a peace deal. That's, hey, you agree to this or we will continue to commit genocide. Oh, we're still going to attack you during the ceasefire, but we'll do it a lot less overtly, right? So that was that. Now you have America and the Ukrainians working together and be like, all right, we have a peace deal, and now we're going to present it to Russia, and Russia could literally just say, I don't give a damn. I want this, and you either meet it or don't. And if you don't, the war rages on, and if you do, fine, we'll end it right now. So this whole one-sided nonsense of we're going to broker it and you're going to accept it without any leverage is absolutely insane to me. And the fact that America thinks it can play these games with any country, for that matter, but least of all Russia, which is already engaging in military conflict. Like, they don't care. Like, they're already engaged. They're already winning and holding their own and accomplishing their stated agenda. So, in Russia's mind, the only peace that they want is going to be in their terms. And if it's terms that favor Ukraine, of course Russia is going to be like, no, I don't like that. And I want Ukraine to suffer so that this shit never happens again. And if America backs Ukraine and is like, well, this is the deal, I'll take it or leave it, well, Russia's going to be like, well, then I'm leaving it. So again, this is a one-sided negotiation where we are hoping against hope Russia will be magnanimous enough to accept it. By the way, that's not how diplomacy works. That's just not how that works. You need to get all parties involved. I noticed that too, and now ever since you keep bringing that up, I noticed that immediately that she has the coffee cup. Is that her shtick? I've never seen any reporter with a cup of coffee attached to their hand, even while reporting the news. Yeah, no, I don't know either. It could be her shtick. I have a pipe, a cigar, a prop. I have many different shticks. All right. Controversy time, I guess.
Says that Kyiv is under attack from ballistic missiles as Russian cruise missiles and attack drones have been taking aim at Ukraine's capital, an assault that is coming just after the Ukrainian President Zelensky publicly appealed for the attacks to stop amid renewed peace talks that are underway right now. Those talks have largely been centered around a 28-point plan from President Trump that has been widely...
So, Why doesn't this work anymore? I thought you used to be able to see like a clip of that spot when you put your mouse over it. Is that just not a thing anymore? All right.
To the source of that statement tonight, Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska joins me now. And Congressman, obviously you feel very strongly about these two dynamics that are at play here. Can I first ask you, do you think it's fair to say that President Zelensky has not said thank you to the United States enough?
That's the opening question to the congressman about Ukraine getting attacked by Russia? Do you think Zelensky's been saying... Why the fuck is CNN parroting this? Oh my... Like, is CNN even a liberal news network? Like, is CNN turning into Fox? Because, like, what the fuck is that? Literally.
No, it's not true, unfortunately, what the president has said and the vice president. They've both made these claims. President Zelensky has thanked the United States and President Trump and President Biden before him many times. And so it's just not being honest. I don't know why the president says this. And he's, I guess they claim it leads to negotiating. I don't see how it does. What I've seen since the president came in, he uses like punching boxing gloves on Zelensky and uses velvet gloves on Putin. And you just see the contrast. One's the invader, though, and one's the victim. One wants democracy, and one is has murdered his rivals. I don't understand why the president keeps abusing and talking down to Zelensky, who wants to be on our side, and Putin hates us. This doesn't make sense. I'm an old Ronald Reagan guy. I believe in peace through strength. Reagan stood up to the Soviet Union or the Russians at the time. Eisenhower did. I don't know why this president can't have moral clarity on what's going on.
Okay. I lost my bananas there for a second. But that was a better response than what I was expecting. That said, I don't know that that's necessarily newsworthy. I mean, put me on there too and say, I don't understand why Trump can't be a goddamn president and act like a fucking president and embody the presidential experience of preventing war with other countries that Eisenhower and JFK and FDR and Roosevelt, and I wouldn't say Reagan did, but technically he said Gorbachev tear down that wall and we didn't go to war with Russia. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, that's certainly something that you can say on the news as an elected official, but like, that's, I don't know. That's a mild, I don't know. Oh, here we go. Counter proposal.
The Kyiv delegation taking part in talks in Geneva with the U.S. over the weekend isn't even home yet, but already...
All right. This is very shallow of me, but look at their styles. Like, almost... It's like the white lady was trying to copy the black lady, but didn't have nearly enough hair. So she kind of stopped at the twirl. And now they kind of look like half twins. Like, it's like if she had just a little bit more hair, they would have the same exact hairstyle. That's just extremely, I don't know. That was the first thing that came to mind. Sorry. I apologize.
Already, Russia is rejecting the European counterproposal to Donald Trump's 28-point peace plan to end the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, top EU leaders, meantime, are voicing optimism blended with caution about the newly revised proposal after the first draft was seen as highly favorable to Russia.
EU leaders meeting in Angola on the sidelines of a summit with the African Union say they are committed to providing Ukraine with diplomatic, military, and economic support. Earlier, CNN spoke to the European Union's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, who made reference to the White House plan that, among other things, called for Ukraine to cede territory under its control.
Well, Europe puts forward their counterproposal to the plan. Okay, so fine. But Trump's plan, I guess, started off with giving Russia what it wants, which is obviously not what you do, right? That's not even negotiation, that's capitulation, that's surrender. So whatever Europe's one is, but this again, CNN, you are a multi-billion-dollar industry. Why are you continuously making misleading headlines or building up to it in the middle of the video. Like, that's bullshit.
He said that it had been the best meeting, in his opinion, since the start of the discussions at the beginning of this administration
Look
with
at
Ukraine.
the European counter. Oh, okay. That's okay.
On this matter. After those meetings wrapped up, he said there had been a tremendous amount of progress. However, he did stress that there is still work to be done. He would not go into details about what gaps remain, but he said that they would continue these intensive discussions. Listen to how he described this ongoing, evolving peace plan.
There were items that we were discussing as part of the original 28, or it evolved. This is a living, breathing document. Every day with input, it changes. I can tell you that the items that remain open are not insurmountable. We just need more time than what we have today. I honestly believe we'll get there.
Now, there are indications, though, that there have been changes from that controversial 28
heat and power. Revised, started off as this 28-point peace plan that is highly favorable to Russia.
Spoke to the press twice during the.
So, okay, they don't even. Okay, you know what, CNN? You know, this is why nobody trusts the news. You say it's a counterproposal is unconstructive, and you don't even mention it. We just listened to everything that you said with that tagline. And not once did you even mention Russia. Like, what the... Oh, my goodness. Okay. Key points.
And ABC's National Security and Defense analyst Mick Mulroy has more on that. So, Mick, a U.S. official says there are some minor details to be sorted out here, but that Ukraine has agreed to a peace deal. So what do you think are the key points in this plan?
So, Dan, to start with, it's a good thing that we've gotten to a peace deal that at least some officials are saying that Ukraine agreed to. That means it's a substantial shift away from the 28-point plan that originated this. But I think the biggest sticking point we just saw President Zelensky said, and that is actually legally recognizing land that Russia unlawfully took as part of Russia. That would not only be a very hard pill to swallow from Ukraine, and they would have to have a referendum on it. It would essentially send a message that if you can take land, then you can take land and be recognized for it. And that sends the wrong message.
Okay, I don't know what he's about to say next. I watch these at the same time you watch these. That's the whole point of having the playlist in the stream and having Anna support me in making the playlist, right? I am reacting to them because if I was watching them first to put them on the playlist, you wouldn't get a genuine reaction, right? So, my genuine reaction to this is if there is an international incident that America is involved in, where there is a military conflict involving land acquisition, and part of the peace resolution involves the land that was acquired through military conflict can then become to the one who acquired it, that gives Israel carte blanche to attack all of the Middle East. And immediately start annexing territories. Starting with the Gaza Strip. And that, I hope, is something he's going to bring up. I doubt it, because it's ABC, CNN, whatever. But that is the ramifications. If that becomes normalized, especially with this Russia-Ukraine conflict, it becomes normalized across the globe. And it's not just Israel versus Palestine, Russia versus Ukraine. We're seeing it in Bangladesh and Pakistan. I think we're seeing it with India, and I don't remember the other country they were going against. Cambodia, maybe? But, and it's also China dealing with Taiwan and other places. Like, China would just immediately be like, oh, we can do this? Great. Taiwan, you're mine now. Thailand, you're mine now. Like, the Yellow Sea belongs to me now. And opening that Pandora's box is not going to end well.
Message to Russia, and I'm sure our European partners, in addition to Ukraine, would have a big problem with that.
U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll is meeting with a Russian delegation today. What do you think it'll take to get Russia on board with this plan?
So I'll start with it's somewhat unusual that the Secretary of the Army be working in this diplomatic capacity. This is usually a very senior State Department special envoy. But that said, he's obviously a very competent individual. So I think he's really going to come up against Russians understanding that as long as they can keep taking terrain, they're not interested in a ceasefire. So it's unlikely that they'll accept this new revised 19-point plan. That likely require pressure in the form of significant sanctions, releasing frozen Russian assets, and improving more long-range weapon systems that Ukraine can use so effectively to target Russia's energy infrastructure, which supports their war. So until they see more consequences to not having a ceasefire, it's likely Russia will continue this. They'll have many negotiations. That's totally fine with them. But they'll keep fighting, I think, until they believe it's not in their own interest.
Crazy that not 5 minutes ago I said the very same thing. Russia has no vested interest in stopping. Most invaders don't have an interest in stopping unless it is no longer effective for them to do so, right? And ending on a high note is better than overreaching and getting your ass handed to you by a conglomerate alliance or some unforeseen counteroffensive that changes the entire flow of the war, right? So, again, I'm not just speaking out of my ass when I talk about international politics or military conflict. Like, this is... You heard it from whoever this expert is. I don't know who this guy is. NBC News contributor Mike Mulroy. So, now, I guess... Oh, yeah, we have a minute left, and they haven't even talked about any of the key points. So, but... land being one, resources being another, and then, of course, probably even sovereignty, like in terms of population. So land isn't necessarily the same thing as population, because the Russian population may not necessarily be in the places where they were captured. So it might even be something along those lines. And he mentioned the frozen Russian assets in U.S. and European banks. So there's a lot that Russia wants. And if they're not going to even get some of it, they're going to just keep on going because there's not enough consequence, as I brought up, to deter them. And that's the issue. Without consequences, this continues indefinitely. Or until Ukraine is erased from the map or Russia is. Okay. Shocking leak with our favorite indie news program, Breaking Point.
Some serious drama going on with the Ukraine-Russia negotiations.
That's right.
Sort of have a deal, not exactly have a deal. There's some dispute over that, but it appears like somebody's trying to sabotage it by leaking phone calls of Russia's foreign minister. The implication from Russians, and I think from anybody who's kind of following it objectively, is that either the Ukrainians or two groups here would be tapping the Russian foreign minister's phone. It'd be Ukraine or it'd be the United States, or the Europeans, actually. So there's potentially three groups, actually. The assumption is that Ukraine is doing this and leaking it, but I think it's just as possible that some European, intel agency is doing this.
Totally.
If you want
or the U.S. I mean, Glenn already made the comparison.
Who
but
cares
it's not
about who fucking leaked it? Talk about the leak.
And not to say that.
What the hell is that? Like, are they a podcast? Is that what this actually is? Because get to the fucking point, please.
Russia doesn't do this as well. They famously, we presume it was them that got this like incredible audio of Victoria Nuland during the 2014 Maidan coup, where she basically says like "F the EU." We're putting our guy in. Like, it was really kind of blunt talk where you're like, "Whoa,
we'll do it live."
This is the gloves off U.S. approach behind the scenes. This is what you hear about, but you never actually hear directly. So everybody's tapping everybody here. So what the Russian foreign minister and Witkoff are talking about, it happens right before Zelensky's coming to the White House. And Witkoff is like, look, I really think it'd be a good idea if your boss, Putin, called Trump before this meeting. And the guy's like, oh, before? Really? It's like, yes, you should do this before. And at that meeting, Trump was prepared to greenlight a bunch of Tomahawks, and because Trump was getting increasingly frustrated with Putin. Like, why won't this guy just do a peace deal? You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to give Zelensky whatever he wants and see how that goes. So Witkoff seems to be trying to stave that off and say, no. Have your guy call and stop with the details. He's like, you and I understand what the details are going to be. He says Donetsk, some type of agreement around, some type of security agreement. But don't get into the details. Just talk in hopeful terms and call Trump a man of peace and say that we all want peace. And the guy's like, okay, man of peace. We'll do man of peace. I'll have Putin call. So Putin calls, and they do a 2.5-hour call before this Zelensky meeting. And then Trump goes into the Zelensky meeting. He's like, I talked to Putin. He said, I'm a man of peace. He said I think he really wants peace.
Okay, thank you for getting to the point and talking about the actual thing that we've been wanting to talk about. Manipulating Donald Trump is as easy as flattering him. If you want the United States to bend to your will, call the president pretty or smart or witty or whatever, and you'll get whatever the hell that you want from him. Like, that's how fucked we are as a country. Again, it's not JFK who will stand his ground. It's not Eisenhower who was a bona fide war hero in World War II. It's not even, I don't want to sing Reagan's praises. Okay, but it's not George H.W. Bush or Jr. It's none of these presidents who actually stood their ground on the international stage and had to be negotiated with, and where both sides came away with something or less than what they both wanted, right? Like, if you just bat your eyelashes at Trump and pat him on the head, America will bend the knee to you. That is what this discussion is talking about, and we are seeing it. We saw it with the Mamdani meeting. We saw it with the gift giving from Korea and crap, now I forgot. Not the EU? No, that's European Union. Qatar. Yikes. UAE, that's what I was thinking of. Anyway, all these countries are lavishing Trump with gifts, and all of a sudden they're getting along famously. Lack of tariffs, lack of this, better trade, whatever have you. And the fact that these conversations are happening just once again hit that point home. Now, I don't know if this is anything worth reading. Okay, well, it pretty much points to they're actually touting that what they did in Gaza was a good thing. Of course they are. Wonderful. Well, if that's any indication of the deal that Ukraine's about to get, look at the one that they gave to Gaza and how heavily that favored Israel.
So we're going to hold off on these long-range missiles. And here's the transcript. Should we do the Russian accent and do a dramatic reading of it?
I think you.
All right. That's the script. That's the leak. If you flatter Trump, Putin will get his way, and we can get this peace deal off the ground. Like, it's ridiculous. And I thought I read yours out loud already, but you said Ryan Grimm tends to beat around the bush a lot. Well, stop it. Because some of us are trying to use your videos for content, and you're like filling your own content with embellishments like you're writing an English paper. Like, calm down.
We're going to bring in Rosalind Jordan now. She joins us from Washington, D.C. Ros, Trump really putting a positive spin on things here. That's despite plenty of sticking points from both Ukraine and Russia.
All right. Since I commented on the ladies earlier, I got to comment on this guy. If ever there was an Aryan figurehead, or this is what the Germans were fighting for, this motherfucker. I hope he's a good person. He's maybe he isn't a white supremacist, but if If ever there was a poster boy for white supremacy, or if they were looking to just steal an image and use it for white supremacy, you couldn't do much worse than this guy.
That's right. The original 28-point plan, which the Trump administration put forward about a week or so ago, basically, in many critics' minds, favored the Russian position. It would require Ukraine to give up much more of its territory in the east than Russia had actually claimed during the 2.5-year-long war. It would bar...
The original plan was actually just going to give Russia more land? What the fuck? I think that is something that Trump would have written. You know, maybe that is true, Ryan. Anna, maybe that's true.
The NATO countries neighboring Ukraine from stationing their forces on Ukrainian territory, and Ukraine would be required to reduce vastly the size of its military. Those were non-starters for the Ukrainian government, obviously. Now there's been negotiations both in Geneva and now in Abu Dhabi. The Ukrainians are apparently getting more of what they want in this reportedly slimmed down 20 or 21-point plan. But there are already intimations from the Russians that if they're not going to get the things that they care about most, then there isn't a deal. And even in the statement that the U.S. President Donald Trump put out late on Tuesday afternoon, he indicated that he would not be meeting either with the president of Russia or with the president of Ukraine unless there is, in his words, a final deal, one in which both sides have agreed to the terms of a deal, that there shouldn't be any outstanding points still needing to be worked out. So,
okay, I think that's enough of Russia and Ukraine. Basically, Ukraine and America are coming up with a plan that Russia is most likely not going to agree with because they aren't being involved. Secondly, the conflict that is ongoing, and it seems like it's going to be a forever war that Russia gets to fight instead of America for once. So I think we can leave it at that. We kind of beat that dead horse, I would say. We're going to do a quick shift, like out of complete left field. We're going to go to the Louvre robbery again because
French police say they've
first of all, here's the thing. Was it a crime? Sure. But was anybody hurt? No. Was it epic as fuck? Yes. And was the context of stealing royal jewelry right after international No Kings marches perfect timing and just epic artistry? Absolutely. But they're getting caught, so let's at least wrap this story up while we can.
New arrests in connection with the new Louvre heist. Sources tell ABC News 4 people were arrested this morning, including the last member of the gang of 4 that carried out the robbery. ABC News 4 correspondent Tom Sufi Burridge is in Paris with more on that. Hi, Tom. What's the latest here?
You know, I don't feel so bad about my forehead anymore. Like, even if I go as far with my forehead as I can, that man has a 7. Like, oh my God. I need to stop.
Yeah, Diane, so police are now saying they made 4 arrests this morning, but crucially, one of the 4 arrested this morning on the outskirts of Paris is, they believe, one of the 4 suspected robbers from the Louvre. The other 3 suspects who carried out that robbery are already in police custody, police say, and have been charged with gang-related robbery. Now, police will have 4 days to question this 4th suspected robber in the gang.
Why gang-related robbery? Wouldn't that be grand larceny or something? Like, shouldn't stealing royal jewelries be a much higher level of thievery? Gang robbery? So what? The Bloods and the Crips, decide to rob a bank? That's a gang robbery? Okay. But, like, if a member of MS-13 robbed the Smithsonian, you would still just call that a gang robbery? That's so weird to me.
and the other 3 people arrested on the outskirts of Paris earlier today. But remember, in the CCTV footage from October the 19th, when that daylight heist on a Sunday morning at the Louvre took place, you can see 2 men who actually go up that ladder and cut the hole in the window of the Louvre and then access the building, go in, smash the glass casings, and then make it out before the police can arrive. And there are 2 other individuals on motorbikes down at the bottom of the ladder who were the getaway drivers. So 4 in total. Police believe now they have the whole gang, but there's no clues to where the whereabouts of those 7 items of French crown jewelry.
So, they got the thieves, but they didn't get the materials. Now that tells me part of this Netflix special is they are going to negotiate. They're going to like, well, you can set us free and let us be the epicest thieves of the century, and then we'll return them. Or you'll never see these again. Catch me if you can. So I guess that's our crowning piece of information. Okay. So we had a little bit of fun. Now we're going to go straight back into fuckery. I guess though, like some of the videos got a little jumbled up, I think. Cuz like there's a Venezuela and then Hezbollah and Venezuela again. So let's just do this because
the victim works as a massage.
Texas church employee alleged. Oh, wait, no, we did this one yesterday. This doesn't need to be on the list. How do you remove it from the list? Okay, I guess you don't remove it from the list. So let's go ahead and do Venezuela.
All right, the U.S. is reportedly ramping up pressure against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Starting tomorrow, the U.S. State Department says it's adding the South American leader and other high-ranking officials to its list of the world's most dangerous terrorist organizations. Maduro has denied ties or allegations of working with narco-terrorists. ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang joins me now. Selena, what's the Trump administration's latest pressure on Venezuela? And tell us about this new designation by the State Department.
Okay, we can listen to that, and I'm guessing the rest of the video isn't going to be this much any more informative. It's just, what is America doing to Venezuela today? What's not being discussed is why is America terrorizing Venezuela? Why the hell are we not talking about lithium and oil? Why are we not talking about those 2 major things when we're talking about Venezuela? Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, including Saudi Arabia. So why is none of these reporters talking about the fact that we are escalating tensions with Venezuela, putting him on all these terrorist watch lists, accusing him of this, that, and the other, and murdering Venezuelans in their boats in international waters so that we can capture their oil? Like, why are we not talking about this? Why is no reporter talking about this? So, I don't really know that there's much actually left to talk about, because if they're only going to talk about what more crimes are being committed, then that's a non-issue, because that's already a crime. Like, the more pressure we put on Venezuela, the more we're digging ourselves into a hole. Doubling down doesn't change the fact that what we're doing is a crime, all right? But the fact that we're not talking about the actual ramifications and the actual goals, which is to illicitly steal natural resources from a sovereign nation and try and depose a sovereign nation's leader so that we can get much more favorable trade or access to those resources, is what needs to be discussed. And it ain't. So, speaking of crazy nonsense and escalation,
and
the
Israel
IDF
says it's killed the top commander of Hezbollah in Lebanon.
The IDF attacked Lebanon, claiming that they got a Hezbollah chief, which Hezbollah is part of Lebanese government, like directly. Like, they're not a terrorist organization. They are part of the Lebanese government. So the IDF attacked a Lebanese government official. That's the headline that you need to understand.
Lebanon. The Lebanon Health Ministry says the attack in Beirut killed 5 people and injured 28. Lebanon's president
Again, attacking people in civilian centers, war crime. Just because they chose not to do it against a Palestinian for a change doesn't change the fact that it's still a war crime.
Condemning the attack, saying despite a ceasefire, Israel, quote, disregards repeated calls to cease its attacks on Lebanon.
And guess what? There was a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon as well that Israel violated. It's almost as if Israel doesn't give a damn about ceasefires or negotiations as long as they get what they want. So, like, there is no good faith diplomacy with Israel.
Now, Israel is accusing Hezbollah of violating the ceasefire by attempting to rearm itself. Foreign correspondent Tom Sufi-Burridge is following that story for us. Hi, Tom. What's the latest on this attack and commander killed?
Yeah, so this is Hatem Ali Tabataei. He was the chief of staff of Hezbollah. Israel says he was a key operative within the organization. I mean, this is the most significant strike by Israel, Diane, over the course of the last year since a ceasefire was drawn up between Israel and Hezbollah. It is the first attack by the IDF on the capital of Lebanon, Beirut, in 5 months. It is a significant strike and a significant figure within Hezbollah has been targeted here. I mean, look, the Israeli government is saying that Tabataei was basically a barrier towards the disarmament of Hezbollah. We are 3 days away from the 1-year anniversary of that ceasefire. And in theory, that was a deadline set down by Israel by which time Hezbollah was supposed to disarm. But Hezbollah isn't just a military organization, a terrorist organization in the eyes of the US and its allies. It's also a potent political force within Lebanon. And what you've had over the last...
Almost as if I said that. It's almost as if, you know, we're paying attention and learning and participating in the geopolitical process here. You know what's actually, though, really, really sad is I don't have a journalism degree. I don't have a reporting degree. I don't know what the degree is to become a correspondent. I don't have whatever credential you need. There's also not a degree to get into politics, right? I mean, they have a political science degree and various other degrees help you run campaigns or run for office, right? I have none of those things. And yet somehow, by simply paying attention and putting the 3 brain cells that are still functioning to use, I'm able to keep up with these professionals. I'm able to keep up with these world leaders, these experts. And what is sickening, what is frustrating... Uh-oh, did I get disconnected? Okay, well, it looks like we're back. Okay, anyway, what's sickening is that people like me get dismissed out of hand because, well, you're not rich. You're not successful. You're not already elected. Who are you? Well, apparently I'm Sam Ronan, some guy who's doing as good a job or better than every dense motherfucker in Washington. And this is, again, this isn't me humble bragging. This is me angrily stating if a civilian like me, sure, veteran, can get on their level by simply paying attention, so can you. So can anyone in this country. And that's the point. We, the people, have the capacity to lead, to govern ourselves, to administer ourselves, to deal with our own infrastructure and political issues and our own turmoil and strifes. We have the capacity. Maybe not every single individual person, but a majority of us have the capability. We might not have the temperament, I'll give you that, but we have the capability. So if ever you thought to yourself, I don't think I'm qualified. I don't think I have what it takes. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. Look at my stream and be like, well, this guy is just some guy running for Congress, some guy who ran for the DNC chair and changed the entire narrative of the debate by opening his mouth for 5 minutes. If he can do it, certainly so can I. And that's the point. We, the people, are the power. We, the people, have the capability. We just need to recognize it in ourselves. And if that is something that I can do, is point a mirror and show like, yes, this can be you too, right? See this? This is also you, right? Like, but a mirror, right? Well, I don't have a mirror, okay? But pretend this is a mirror. You too could be on this stream. You too could be a correspondent. You too could be running for Congress. Because although the nuance of what's happening might take a little bit of doing, it might take a little bit of research and paying attention, the ability to digest and disseminate that information is not an insurmountable feat. I think people would have like, if you had a hard time with algebra in high school, this is much easier. I think. I mean, I didn't struggle with math either, but that's also not the point. You have a vested interest in knowing what's happening in your country and around the world. And if I can make it to this stage, so can you. I am just a regular American like you guys. I am not an exceptional talent. The only talent I have is public speaking. And that mostly gets me in trouble in the workplace because, by golly, they might not know what I said, but they know I called them an asshole. So, I just, I had to do a quick aside here that, I don't just keep pointing up. I said that, I did this, I knew that. Hey, imagine that. To just humble brag, but to showcase that you too can do this. That we, the people, have it within ourselves to be at their levels. That these people are not exceptional. They aren't in any sense of the imagination. Now, this guy is exceptional, but for a whole different set of reasons. That forehead, if he was a little greasy or sweaty and looked at the sun the wrong way, that could be a problem.
Last few months is a process, the US playing a big role, France playing a big role, other Arab nations in the region, trying to push and put pressure on Hezbollah to disarm. But at the moment, there is absolutely no sign that the group is willing to do that. And therefore, the number of escalating attacks by Israel over the last few weeks is getting, bigger and bigger. And therefore,
I'm actually really surprised he just threw Israel under the bus. He said Israel's escalating attacks are getting more and more consistent. I'm getting nervous. Am I losing connectivity? Keep saying I'm disconnected for the server. Don't do that to me. But I am surprised that an ABC News correspondent actually didn't necessarily condemn Israel, but did point out that it is Israel doing the aggression. That's something that usually isn't brought up in the news.
The ceasefire, if we can call it that, looks more and more fragile.
So where does this leave the ceasefire in Lebanon?
Well, I mean, look, there has never really been a total ceasefire. So nearly a year ago, as I said, there was this ceasefire deal. It basically meant that Israel's war against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon ended effectively. And then we did have a massive reduction in terms of Israel's attacks into Lebanon, and also the ground operation that Israeli forces were conducting in Lebanon was greatly withdrawn. And Israel still only occupies very small amounts of territory in southern Lebanon. But look, there isn't really a ceasefire. There isn't a full-blown military campaign by the Israelis, but this pattern of strikes has continued right throughout the past year. It's escalated in the last few weeks. That's why you've got the French government, after this latest strike, saying it is deeply concerned and saying it raises the risk of more escalation. But a senior Israeli military official has told ABC News that there isn't going to be an escalation, that this was a targeted, precise strike within a certain window.
Okay, let's go back to October 14th, 8th. I mean, let's go back to November 2023. Like, we're only going after Hamas terrorists. Oh, we're only going after the freedom fighters. Oh, we're only going after. Oh, we're only going. This is Israel's song and dance. Oh, this is only a one-time deal. No, the fuck it's not. It never has been, and it never will be. Israel is the number one threat to peace in the Middle East because they don't want peace in the Middle East. They want to become the Middle East because Zionists believe God gave it to them. That's the point. That is it. That is the whole thing. End of story. Suffice to say, I think we covered this last week, but this could be a new one, which would be horrific. But more than 300 school children kidnapped in Nigeria. Jesus Christ.
A mass abduction of school children in Nigeria has launched a massive rescue effort. According to a local Christian organization, gunmen broke into the St. Mary's Catholic School early Friday morning and took by force.
It's a new one. So this is in addition to the ones that were happening last week. Christ.
More than 300 school children, as well as 12 of their teachers. It's now one of the worst mass kidnappings ever in the country, and comes just days after more than 24 schoolgirls were abducted in a neighboring state. And this morning, Pope Leo said he is deeply saddened to learn of the kidnappings and asked for the immediate release of those that were kidnapped. Joining me now for more on this is the executive director for Amnesty International Nigeria, is Issa Sanusi. Thank you so much for being with us. These mass abductions like this have been taking place since 2014, and in each case, more than 100 children were abducted. Has anyone claimed responsibility for the latest kidnapping, and what are the kidnappers' goals?
Well, up to now, nobody has claimed responsibility, and I have to tell you that we just received confirmation that 53 out of the 300 children were able to escape between Friday.
Wow. Wow, for several reasons, but not least of which is, imagine you're a child between the ages of 5 and what, I'm guessing 13, 12, and you have gunmen taking you out of your classroom with a few of your teachers, and you manage, as a child, to escape them. That's impressive. The second reason why wow. How utterly traumatizing is it for these children that they escaped being kidnapped by armed whomever and watching potentially dozens or hundreds of their friends and teachers get kidnapped and trafficked before their eyes? Like, this is horrible. In every sense of the word, this is horrible. And the fact that these kids got away and survived, how are they going to grow up? Like, how is their lives going to be permanently impacted by this incident?
And yesterday.
Wow.
And no group has taken responsibility, and the children have already been united with their families. But up to now, there are at least 250 or over 250 still in captivity, including 12 teachers from that. So no group has taken responsibility, but the abduction has the hallmark, all the patterns of the past such incidents that happen in other parts of Nigeria.
The idea that
so is that the Burkina Boko Haram. Yeah. So are they still going? Is that what he's trying to imply? Because that's not great. Why hasn't Nigeria taken care of this problem? Well, we can argue that it has to do with, European and U.S. interventionism in Africa and undermining, African nations' individual sovereignty. So that's tragic. And also, actually, I don't want the answer as to why. It's just disturbing that it is happening and that it's been going on for over 11 years. And that it doesn't seem to be stopping or slowing down at all. These are the kinds of things where if America decided to work with Nigeria and send the military into Nigeria to help recover these children, we would be lauded the world over as unequivocally the good guys. But instead, no, we're murdering fishermen off the coast of Venezuela and Colombia and threatening to invade Mexico, and we're aiding and abetting genocide in Palestine. And instead of helping find and rescue these children and put to rest and bury 6 feet underground whatever organization is doing the kidnapping, no, we have to be engaged in genocide and war crimes. Oh, and I forgot, we're invading our own cities for the sake of immigration as well. I think this is more about Venezuela. Designates Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization, and I'm fairly certain this is the one that they're trying to attribute to Maduro, in a vaunted effort to try and oust and overthrow Maduro publicly rather than behind the scenes. We already covered the fact that Maduro was targeted by the U.S. State Department before and was indicted on terrorism charges and narco-terrorism charges at that, without like any sort of involvement of Maduro at all or evidence being presented. It was just they were creating a story to use later against him. They are saying that Maduro is the leader of that cartel, which, you know, how do you find the time to be the leader of a cartel and president of a country?
Pressure against Venezuela by designating a cartel group allegedly tied to President Nicolas Maduro as a foreign terrorist organization. But here,
and the fact that the reporting here is stating allegedly belonging to Maduro as if that's somehow credibility. Because if you say it's allegedly Maduro, when it's allegedly this cop killed the person that clearly was killed, or allegedly the ICE agent who assaulted the innocent bystander when they clearly did that, right? All of this propagandizing of allegedly and then the activity implies guilt. Allegedly, this rapist raped somebody else who has clearly been raped and whatever. Clearly, this murderer who clearly murdered this person, allegedly murdered this person because they haven't been convicted yet. And I get that that's the legalese of it, but the implication and the context is that they are guilty. Right? Allegedly committed this crime. Luigi Mangione allegedly murdered that CEO in cold blood. And quite frankly, he might be innocent because of the eyebrows not matching up to the guy that they found. But that's also not here nor there. By saying it was allegedly Luigi, he is, in fact, considered guilty in the eyes of the public. So this kind of reporting is implicitly stating that Maduro is guilty of this claim. That Maduro is a leader of a cartel, that he is a narco-terrorist, and that he should be ousted from the presidency. This reporting is state-sanctioned, state-sponsored, state-directed propaganda. And that is not okay.
here's the thing. It's not really a cartel, at least not technically speaking. So this group we're talking about, Cartel de los Soles, is widely considered a loosely organized network of drug traffickers. The U.S. claims the group is headed by Maduro, but the administration has not provided specific evidence to back that claim up. Many Venezuelans began using the term Cartel de los Soles in the 1990s, referring to high-ranking military officers who got rich running drugs. Then the term was expanded to officials who were also breaking the law. So the word cartel in this case is kind of an umbrella term. All of this is just the latest escalation in the Trump administration's campaign to combat alleged drug traffickers in this region. So far, the massive military build.
Look at this. This is, I guess you're missing a little bit of the context. This is all the places where we have extrajudicially murdered people. Notice how most of these are in international waters. And notice also how some of these are dangerously close to sovereign territory of Venezuela and Colombia, respectively. Like 21 strikes, 82 fatalities. We have murdered 82 people in 21 strikes off these various areas. And I'm sorry, none of these locations scream heading to the United States for drug trafficking. None of it. And honestly, some of these are fishermen. Like, these are fishing sites. I don't know if there's a map. Actually, you know what? Is there a map? Let's see if there is. There is. Cool. Imagine that. So there we go. Territorial waters. Oh, okay. So territorial waters being a key word here. So if we look, oh, I guess we can't do it that way. Yeah, I don't know how we're going to do that. So, okay, territorial waters, right? This is that map. And then we look at this map. So right up where Venezuela is, and these little islands right here that create this little semicircle deal, that's where a majority of the attacks happen, and right in the little Gulf-looking thing here in the Colombia, and right off of Acapulco, Mexico. So if we click on this, that's Panama and Malpelo waters, Grenada waters, and Dominican Republic, it looks like. And maybe a U.S. Virgin Islands. So we're literally murdering people in places where we're not allowed to be murdering people, which you're not allowed to be murdering people anyway, but you're definitely not allowed to be murdering people in other people's sovereign waters. That's literally an act of war. Like an actual act of war. If you kill somebody on somebody's land and you're military, we're a card-carrying member of the military, and you kill somebody anywhere, that is an act of war. Period. Dot. End of story. A soldier killing anyone is an act of war. Now, sure, sometimes it's just an incident, and it doesn't lead to a war or a battle or a skirmish. But the fact remains that the act itself is an act of war. And clearly, I have too many tabs here, so I'm going to have to address that after stream. But carrying on.
Up in the Caribbean, and relentless boat strikes against alleged narco-terrorists have killed more than 80 people. As for Nicolas Maduro, he is as defiant as ever, calling the U.S.'s latest move ridiculous. Let's bring in Will Freeman. He is a fellow for Latin American Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. Will, so good to have you with us tonight. Talk to us about what is happening here, right? We have seen the United States make designations against cartels in the past. From your perspective and based on everything you study, what is different about this one?
Well, this is the first one that they've designated where they're actually saying a government, an authoritarian regime in this case, is itself.
Dude did not waste but 3 seconds parroting the byline. An authoritarian regime in this case. You know what? I think I have a Google up here as well. Okay. Right there from fucking Wikipedia. Is widely considered a dictator, leading an authoritarian government characterized by electoral fraud and serious rights abuses. Now, I don't know if there's a way. Oh my God, and right below that, Nicolas Maduro Moros, wanted, reward of increase up to $50 million. And there's a fucking poster. What? Here's the whole poster. They even have QR codes. What? Yeah, I'm gonna download this. Oh wait, no, I should probably not. Oh wait, cool. That window isn't showing up. It's also freezing, so never mind. Suffice to say, if you are Googling from the United States of America, you're going to find that Nicolas Maduro is the worst criminal to ever criminal a crime, right? But if you objectively look at Venezuelan politics and Maduro's policies, he's socialist. So how, like, That's obviously why they're going after him, because he's a socialist. But, like, the fact that all of Western media, and apparently Wikipedia, which I didn't think was necessarily controlled by the state, but I guess some pages certainly, definitely are. Even according to Wikipedia, they're like, nope, he's a bad man. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? Beginning his working life as a bus driver, he became a trade union leader and then elected to the National Assembly. He was under Hugo Chavez. Was that the reason? Is that... Oh, wait, sorry. I didn't switch the... So, Hugo Chavez. Now, Hugo Chavez was considered a dictator. And a bastard at that. But again, maybe I am wrong, because that could be propagandized history as well. But I do know that Hugo Chavez has always been considered a bad man. So is that the correlation, because he worked with Chavez? That he is also an authoritarian? Hassan was talking about how Venezuela is actually less socialist than Norway. That's kind of crazy, and yet we're not invading Norway. Okay, so Hugo Chavez was also a socialist, but not a terrorist, bad guy. Go figure. Okay. So, yeah, United Socialist Party of Venezuela. He has ruled Venezuela by decree since 2015 through powers granted to him by the ruling party legislator. I mean, just this language alone. Widely considered a dictator, leading an authoritarian government characterized by all these things. Dropped 42 places in the Press Freedom Index. So has America. Where's America in this index? Because I'm fairly fucking certain America has dropped significantly. Look at that. We're 65 percentile out. We have dropped since 2019. We were at 74% in 2019. We have dropped 9% in 6 years. But Venezuela is an authoritarian dictatorship. What? Where even is Venezuela on this thing? Apparently below the United States. Oh, South Korea is less free than America. Japan is less free than America. Qatar? That might be somewhat believable. Argentina under Milei has dropped 15 points. Oh, is Venezuela like at the very bottom? Of course they are. Libya, of course, right? Of course, Iraq, Sudan, right? You know, Pakistan. Turkey, of course, you know, we got Venezuela right here at 30 points. Dropped 20 points in 6 years under the same president. Yeah. I don't think we can buy this freedom press thing because... What? Germany is so high? I find that difficult to believe considering that they have the AfD going on. UK? They just passed laws making protesting against Israel a terrorist act and supporting Palestinian organizations an act of terrorism. That should drop them immediately. Same thing with France. Oh, it looks like there's 2 countries in here. But I thought South Africa was persecuting white people, white farmers. Yet they have a much higher freedom index than America. Like, this thing is just all over the place. Jimmy Carter had an organization that monitored international elections. They said that Hugo won his elections fair and square. Yeah, no, that's my point, right? Like, this must be more propaganda then, because, like, all of these Eastern Bloc countries, and you got a couple of South American and African countries that are largely called, you know, war-torn third world countries, and yet somehow they're doing better than the United States. That's nuts. Okay. So I don't think anything he says matters at this point. Well, now's as good a time as any to get into the Israel.
Israeli troops have raided large parts of the city of Tubas in the occupied West Bank. It's the latest in a growing number.
There is a fucking ceasefire. An honest-to-God ceasefire in place in the Gaza Strip. Why the hell is Israel laying siege to any part of it?
Of incursions by Israeli forces displacing Palestinians from their homes. Roads into the city were blocked off with mounds of dirt dug up by bulldozers. Residents say the Israeli military conducted door-to-door raids and forced around 30 families from their homes. Israel says they are targeting armed fighters, but the governor of Tubas says the city is near the fertile Jordan Valley and that Israel is using the raids as an excuse to force more Palestinians off their land.
The army controlled all the geographic areas in Tubas, especially...
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it confused. I just realized that. The West Bank is not part of the Gaza Strip. I keep getting that confused. However, if there's a ceasefire with Palestinian Authority at all, why are there military raids occurring at all anywhere within Palestinian territory? Like, to me, a ceasefire shouldn't just be... No, maybe that is the terms, though. It's just a ceasefire between this geographic region, but we don't recognize this geographic region as the same thing, even though it's the same people. Oh my God. Well, we're about to see mass displacement of the West Bank now that they've gotten everything they wanted out of Gaza Strip.
In Tamun. They evacuated dozens of houses and attacked the residents. They put up military barracks in the higher buildings in Tubas and Tamun. The military operation is still continuing.
Let's go straight to our correspondent Noor Ode, who's live for us in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Noor, what is happening in Tubas, and is it similar to what we're seeing elsewhere in the occupied West Bank, where large-scale assaults have been taking place?
Well, Malin, what's happening in the northern occupied West Bank is very interesting for several reasons. On the one hand, it is not similar to that large-scale offensive we saw in Jenin and Tulkarem earlier in the year, where up to 60,000 people were forcibly displaced and large areas of the refugee camps there were destroyed, residents still not allowed to go back. On the other, we see 30 families at least dispossessed, the area, those towns under lockdown, under curfew, and the homes taken over by Israeli soldiers. Now, this is almost an isolated area in the northern occupied West Bank. If life there becomes impossible to tolerate, as it is right now, and people leave, then the entire area of the eastern side of the West Bank becomes empty of Palestinians, and that is the fear that Palestinians have. On average, there are 47 daily raids across the occupied West Bank of communities by Israeli soldiers.
47 daily raids by Israelis against Palestinians just living their lives, while already under a military occupation and curfew. And you want me to believe that that's not Nazi-like, that that's not fascist, that that's not authoritarian, that that's okay? Who are they fucking fooling? Apparently because only 4,389 people actually give a shit is the reason why Israel is getting away with this nonsense. Because it isn't the genocide in Gaza. Whatever they do in the West Bank is irrelevant. I can't talk about Israel without just losing whatever sensibility or calm I have. And this other video is talking about settler violence, and I don't want to watch it. I really don't. But we will talk about it. Israel has been occupying Palestine and has been invading Palestine since 1948 after Nakba. And it has gotten to the point where there are two major Palestinian territories left, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The problem with the Gaza Strip, though, is that it is now basically uninhabitable. because of 2 years of relentless genocide being engaged upon in that area. The West Bank, although largely unmolested, is constantly being attacked, right? The Palestinians are constantly being raided and being displaced from their homes by the military and having their homes and their lands occupied by Israeli settlers, which is modern-day colonization. And that is not okay. And for context, imagine you live wherever it is that you live. You live in Los Angeles, you live in BFE, Kentucky, you live in Colorado, you live in Columbus, you live wherever. And hell, the United States military, under Trump, only targets Democrats, or registered Democrats, or non-registered Republicans, meaning anybody who is not a Republican, the military starts kicking down your door and forcing you out of your home, your entire fucking neighborhood, because you're not registered as a Republican. And now you don't have anywhere to live. You don't have your stuff, your things, your identity, your personal identifiable documentation. And if you fight back, you will be killed on the spot. Worse still, Republicans are now going to take over your house as it is. Whatever was left behind is now the Republicans who came in after the soldiers under Trump. All because you weren't registered as a Republican. That is the equivalent. Granted, that's what's happening now because you're an immigrant. That's what's happening now because you're brown and of Hispanic origin. That is happening today in the United States of America with armed federal agents going door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, and kidnapping and displacing migrants from their homes, from their jobs, from their communities. That is happening right now. That is a fact of what is happening right now. And it is exactly what's happening in Israel, and it's exactly what happened during Nazi Germany. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to hit that point home. But evidently, every single week, twice a week, I have to talk about it. Actually, 3 times a week, because Thursdays are recaps. I have to talk about it on Tuesdays from the position of ICE terrorizing immigrants and brown people. And then on Wednesdays, I have to talk about it from the perspective of Israel occupying Palestinians. And then on Thursday, where it's a mix of both. Every week, 3 times a week, I have to talk about how we are the bad guys and Israel are the bad guys. And how the equivalent of what they are doing is what could be happening to you. So I hope one day it starts going as viral as a Taylor Swift video or some silly prank video or whatever else. Because these are the things that need to get people's attention. Not some ouch, Charlie bit me, right? Brain rot. People are suffering and being terrorized by governments, having their human rights violated by governments. Our government, Israel's government. And that should bother us significantly more than the 4,411 views that this video has gotten from a 16.9 million subscriber channel. So.
Turning now to Jonathan Pollard. So if you watched the Friday show, you would have known Jonathan Pollard, a convicted traitor to the United States. He was an American citizen. He was working for the U.S. security establishment. He sold secrets to Israel. Israel sold many of those secrets to the Soviet Union, endangering a lot of U.S. national security imperatives at the time. He was caught. He was convicted. He spent some 30 years.
So I just want to, I mean, he is who he is. And now I know he is who he is, so I'm not mad about that. So, an American traitor sold state secrets to Israel, our ally, whom we have been giving money and billions of dollars of weapons to for decades, including this time period. Israel then sold that information to the Russians during the Cold War, resulting in the death or severe endangerment of our assets. Let me say that again for emphasis. An American traitor sold American intelligence to Israel, our alleged ally, who then sold that to the Russians during the height of the Cold War, resulting in problems.
In the United States prison system. He was released. After his release, he was actually granted special release from his parole conditions by the Trump administration, and Miriam Adelston herself had her jet fly him to Israel, where he got a hero's welcome. He's attained citizenship there. While he's been enjoying his time in Israel, his country that he has chosen himself, he, in fact, recently in July, got an invitation from the United States ambassador, Mike Huckabee. So he set foot back on U.S. soil in the U.S. Embassy of Jerusalem. And while he was there at the U.S. Embassy of Jerusalem, he confirmed his meeting with Mike Huckabee. He thanked Mike Huckabee for advocating for his release while he was a convicted traitor to the United States. And perhaps they discussed a few other things. And we just wanted to give everyone a taste of who Mr. Pollard is. So here he is in a recent interview where he says that if the United States threatens a ceasefire on Israel and forces them to accept a ceasefire, they should consider nuking the United States of America. Let's take a listen.
That whole introduction got worse the more and more it went on. The Trump administration advocated for and pushed for the pardon or the special release. Mike Huckabee gave him a red carpet ride back to the United States. And Israel welcomed this traitor to Israel with open arms as a hero. Again, an American traitor who sold American intelligence to Israel, our supposed ally, who then sold that information to Russia, not our ally.
I said, well, I believe that the Biden administration, as I called it, did threaten us. But I said, you're mistaken if you think there's never a choice. There was a choice. He said, well, what? Is it to have our weapons cut off? I said, no, let me bring you back to October 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us. He stopped the aerial resupply.
Hold on. Henry Kissinger did something right? Did something good? What?
Supply of our army at that point to extract diplomatic concessions from us. And what happened? What happened was an A-4 Skyhawk was parked at Tel Nof Air Base with some interesting weapons under its wings. And we told the Americans, take your eye in the sky and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway. And the next day, the airlift started. So the guy that I was talking...
Which airlift?
To Israel. The arms airlift.
So in other words, we threatened their...
We threatened to use unconventional weapons. I'll leave it at that. And so he said, is this what you want us to threaten now? I said, absolutely, except this time I want us to go forward with it if necessary. If they think we're bluffing, we go forward with it. Look,
wait, some people might look at this and hear you saying these things and say, he's a dangerous dude. You know, he could, blow up the entire Middle East.
Well, I guess people really haven't been keeping their eyes open since October 7th, because the whole Middle East has blown up.
So that's who we're dealing with.
Wow. So, again, how is Israel our ally when over the course of the past 50 years, they have threatened us with nuclear strikes, attacked us, and attacked our vessels, potentially terrorized and terror attacked our own country vis-a-vis 9/11, and then attempted to do the same thing a couple months ago, but thanks to Iran, an avowed enemy of the United States, warning us of that fact, we were able to prevent it. And Israel then still said, yeah, we did try. We're going to have to keep trying, though, because apparently that didn't work and we still want what we want. And now you have this sick son of a bitch saying, no, Israel should go ahead and nuke the United States. These are extremely sick individuals. Zionism is a very sick ideology. A disturbed ideology. It goes beyond drinking the Kool-Aid. They are detached from reality. And it needs to be brought to heel. Like, Israel needs to be dismantled and its sovereignty stripped. Because they are a clear and present danger to global security and peace. Bar none.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, my favorite part of that video is he's still pretending Israel doesn't have nukes, like nuclear ambiguity, like some interesting weapons. I'm like, Jonathan,
some unconventional
we all know
weapons.
that we know you have nuclear weapons, brother. You know, it's one of those where
I like the part where she's like, some might say this is dangerous. Like, yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
But look, this is the guy that our ambassador has decided to spend his time with.
Yes.
This man,
yeah. Why is an American ambassador spending time with an American traitor who is then advocating for nuclear attacks against the United States and then not immediately arrested on site?
I mean, it's completely insane. And by the way, Trump condoned it.
he condoned it. Let's play that from the White House podium. They condoned this meeting. Let's take a listen.
Ambassador Mike Huckabee had a meeting with Jonathan Pollard, a former U.S. citizen who was convicted and spent 3 decades in jail for selling state secrets to Israel. Did the White House know that that meeting was going to happen? Does the administration condone it?
The White House was not aware of that meeting, but the president stands by our ambassador, Mike Huckabee, and all that he's doing for the United States and Israel.
She's so stupid. The White House... That was your out. The White House was not aware of it. You could have just stuck to that lie. But then you said Trump stands by Mike Huckabee and everything he's doing for America and Israel. Like, bro, you gave him an out, which was a lie, and then you immediately tied him to it anyway. Like, what is wrong with this woman? Again, incompetence abounds.
The White House, stands behind Mike. Okay. I don't know. I mean, this really sent me over the edge. I was so upset about this. And I think it just clicks all the boxes, right? You have our ambassador this guy's a traitor, like an actual traitor, like convicted traitor, sold secrets to Israel.
Again, sold secrets to Israel, who is allegedly our ally. Like, treaty ally. Like, an honest, like, not a, oh, we're good friends with, no, an ally. And, like, a legally binding ally. This motherfucker sold state secrets to an ally who then sold it to an enemy. But Israel is... Make it make sense.
The whole time he was in prison... There was a huge campaign. Bibi Netanyahu used to visit him in prison, by the way. He was, all of these pro-Israel billionaires and others agitated multiple presidents from Bill Clinton on up to pardon him. They were like, oh, it's just spying amongst... Like, no. He sold secrets from America to Israel. He endangered the United States. By the way, the Israelis didn't give a shit about the United States. They just sold them to the Soviets, right? They're happy to do it. They don't care.
So wait, is Sagar... actually is he against Israel? Or is he also pro-Israel? Because he's brimstone and fire right now about the situation. Okay, but he is against Israel. Okay.
They don't care about us, but all we do is care about them. And to have that guy be invited as a guest to the United States Embassy, I just can't stand it. It's like, I don't think any self-respecting nation can stand for people who literally seem to care more about another country than...
No, I mean, this is an actual traitor. Like somebody who literally betrayed their country, being invited back to said country with open arms by the government of said country. That's insane. That is unheard of. That is unprecedented.
And their own, and especially in a diplomatic post. Also, what I want to say on the right, there's all this discussion. Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, these people don't have shit to say about the U.S. ambassador actually inviting a literal traitor to the U.S. embassy. Nothing. Zip. Zero. They advocate for it. That's my thing. These are people who actually have power. The ambassador, confirmed by the United States Senate. Has a single Republican senator said anything about this? One? Should be impeached, removed from office, at the very least, by President Trump. And then these people talking about foreign interference. These people want to bitch and moan about Qatari influence or whatever. You see any spies getting invited to the U.S. Embassy in Doha last time I checked, or anywhere else around the world? The carve-out for this, it's sickening for an independent nation, allegedly, that we're supposed to be. I can't stand it.
You know what? I don't think I have agreed with him at all. Of all the times I've covered his content, I don't think we were on the same page once. But now, this one right here, in this moment, spitting, because I am just as appalled and disgusted. I don't feel like repeating what he's saying, because then I'd be repeating it. But, again, a traitor who sold stuff to Israel, who was allegedly an ally, who then sold it to Russia, getting invited from Israel back to America, and then threatened America to America's face. Again, an ambassador of America, it represents America, speaks with the same authority as Trump. Right? That's what an ambassador is. They speak with that authority. The ability to negotiate is the authority. They can't make decisions, obviously. But the point is, a traitor went through this whole thing and then threatened this country again with their new country's military arsenal that we gave them. If Israel has nukes, it's because we gave it to them. He's a pro-Palestinian conservative. He's pretty anti-war in general. Well, I'll take it. At least we can agree on those things. Well, speaking of.
Since the ceasefire began, Gaza's civil defense has been overwhelmed with calls. Families pleading for help to retrieve the bodies they hurriedly laid to rest. During days when stepping outside meant risking another life lost. Gaza's civil defense is still struggling to recover the dead with almost no heavy machinery, while Israel has allowed bulldozers and excavators in, only to retrieve the bodies of its own captives.
I mean, this is what was once a city, and it looks like a construction site because of how thoroughly destroyed it was. And you're supposed to find bodies in this dirt, the once remained of what used to be a city. And yeah, 10,000 missing in Gaza, and I'm sure the death toll that we're about to be getting once the occupation of Gaza starts in earnest, we're gonna find out it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dead. I don't know how much. This is just kind of like stabbing the wound, kicking the horse while it's already down. Now, this should be become a major. Palestine Action is fighting against the UK government. Thank fucking God. Let's hope this goes the way I'm hoping it goes.
Test of the British government's power to ban certain groups, with judges poised to scrutinise the decision to outlaw Palestine Action. A move the applicants say goes too far, restricting protest and freedom of conscience. But one ministers insists that was necessary under the UK's terrorism laws and guided by security assessments.
But the UK has a higher freedom index than the United States. Copy that.
Founded in 2020, Palestine Action organised direct action protests at sites linked to defence manufacturers. A series of arrests followed after incidents involving trespass and significant property damage. And in July, the group was added to the list of banned organisations, a decision now before the court. The UN Human Rights Office has cautioned that counter-terrorism powers must not unduly restrict peaceful dissent. Since the ban, police have also arrested individuals for displaying slogans in support of the group, adding to wider concerns about how bans like these affect the right to protest, and adding to pressures already.
Again, how is the UK higher on the Freedom Index than the United States? Because at least a majority of protesters are not being charged with terrorism. Not yet. Not yet, at least. It's probably coming. But the UK already got a step ahead of us. Because, you know, Daddy UK has been the epicenter of genocide and fascism for the past 500 years? 400 years?
Felt across policing and the courts. The High Court will assess whether the ban was lawful and proportionate under the Terrorism Act. Among those watching the case closely is Palestine Action's co-founder, Huda Amori, who now speaks from outside the UK.
I think it's quite extraordinary what we've seen unfold in the past few months. It's clear from their own documentation that the state did not expect this level of outrage. They massively underestimated the support Palestine Action had before prescription and how that would translate after prescription.
The question for the judges will be whether the Home Secretary met the legal threshold to ban Palestine Action. While an independent commission into UK counter-terrorism law has said the current classification is too broad and too complex, under a streamlined system, it might still reach the same conclusion for groups involved in direct action.
So, protest is no longer legal in the UK if the UK determines that your protest is a terrorist organization off of these extremely gray areas. Much like what's going on in the United States with, well, we have ICE and they're going to go after immigrants and it's just now show me your papers because you're brown. And I don't have to listen to a goddamn thing, even if you're an American citizen, because I'm not giving you due process in the first place.
Happened over the years is that counter-terrorism law has been added to incrementally, and we think this is a really good opportunity to do a step back and say, can it be simplified? And in simplifying it, can we reinforce, I think, a sound principle in our law that most criminality can be adequately dealt with under our ordinary criminal law.
The judgment.
But why would government give up power when they're so close to subjugating the population? Again, it's like, okay, so fascism in America, right? I mean, we can argue that it's always been around, right? So slavery is just coming full circle with the crypto-fascism and the techno-fascism that we're seeing now. And Christian nationalism and so on and so forth, right? Slavery is coming right back around, except it's indentured servitude, right? Wage slavery. And suppressing those wages and benefits further and further and further, right? So slavery has come full circle. It's almost as if the UK is trying to bring up imperial monarchy full circle, all right? Ever since the Magna Carta, England has been upset about its authority over the population, to include when the colonies separated from the king. And now that's coming full circle. The UK Parliament is subjugating the British population for dissenting by calling it terrorism. Full circle. Like, this is not, okay, this is not the direction I thought it was going to go. Apparently, a lot of the discourse is the UK has the right to do this and they're going to try and fight to keep it this way. And the best we can hope for is that it gets more clearly defined so that if this continues, we can say unequivocally, yep, Palestine Action is terroristic because of this minutia detail that was specifically added so that we could blame them for dissenting. I mean, being supportive of Palestine. Not the uplifting video I thought this was.
Won't be issued until a later date and could further define the boundary between UK counter-terrorism powers and the right to protest, civil disobedience and political expression.
Jesus Christ. And if that wasn't bad enough, we still got the shit going on in Darfur by the Sudanese RSF.
On October 26th, with more than 250,000 civilians still inside the city, Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces encircled Al-Fasher. What followed, survivors say, was a systematic assault on men, women and children fleeing for their lives. Everyone who got out is either a witness to or a victim of what Amnesty International describes as possible war crimes and crimes against humanity. Survivors describe the widespread sexual violence against women and girls by RSF fighters. Sudan's army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Amnesty International have accused the UAE of backing the RSF, charges the UAE denies. One woman, Ibtisam, describes fleeing her home with her 5 children, travelling in a group west towards Golo before they were stopped by 3 armed men.
One of them forced me to go with them, cut my robe and raped me. When they left, my 14-year-old daughter came to me. I found that her clothes had blood on them and were cut into pieces. Her hair at the back of her head was full of dust.
The Amnesty report says Ibtisam's daughter remained silent for hours, only speaking when she saw her mother crying.
She came to me and said, "Mum, they raped me too. But do not tell anyone." After the rape, my daughter became really sick. When we reached Tawila, her health deteriorated, and she died at the clinic.
I don't know what it is about 2025, but it is clearly the year that the entire world lost its fucking mind. Now, I know that the Sudan civil war or actions have been going on for the exact same time period as the genocide against Palestinians. I'm aware of that now. But it's like 2025 is the escalation. It's the unfortunately, it's the literary term, the climax of all of these heinous atrocities coming to a head. And again, barely 7,000, not even 7,000 views. It's like the atrocities are getting buried, but the very small amount of debate that is allowed is the only thing that's making the news and the waves, even though this is available. So, I don't know what to say about that. Again, this is a civil war that is clearly getting... Like, what is the RSF even trying to accomplish, right? Do they think that by slaughtering and maiming and assaulting the population of Sudan, they're going to be welcomed as saviors? Like, what is even the point? What is their purpose? To subjugate the Sudanese people? Because it's clear, like, any argument that they are liberating or protecting from an authoritarian or fascist regime goes out the window if you are terrorizing and committing crimes against the people. At least the Israelis have a stated objective of genocide against the Palestinians. We know why Israel is doing it. It's a horrible, horrible reason, but we know why. It seems like the RSF is just doing it for the love of the game. Let's take a step back.
This is the Merkava.
And talk about Germany going back to muscle memory, apparently, and encouraging Israel to commit genocide against Palestinians.
A tank, one of the main weapons systems Israel has used in and around Gaza. Although most of its components are Israeli, some are not, including engine parts made in Germany. Earlier this year, mounting public anger here at their use in Gaza and the human suffering caused by Israeli bombardment forced Chancellor Friedrich Merz to freeze almost all arms shipments. But now the government says that policy can be dropped.
We've had a ceasefire in Gaza since October 10th, and it has fundamentally stabilized. We expect...
In what universe? Palestinians are being killed every single day by Israel, despite the ceasefire. Israel just attacked Lebanon, despite that ceasefire. What? Do they need another Berlin Wall? I mean, I guess they need another Allies invasion because, of course, we're not even the good guys. So, like, we would be part of the Axis powers at this point. So, yeah, I don't know what the fuck they need.
Expect everyone to abide by the agreements that have been made. That includes maintaining the ceasefire and providing humanitarian aid on a large scale.
How is a tank humanitarian aid, you dumb motherfucker?
Qasim Masri is a pediatrician working in Berlin. He was born in Gaza. He's gone to court here to stop German arms deliveries to Israel and failed.
The reasons they gave were based on the fact that no new licenses are being given at the moment, and it's unclear for the future what's going to happen. But now we know what's going to happen. German weapons will be used further in unfolding this genocide that never stopped.
Public reaction has been fairly muted, but last week Palestinian solidarity activists daubed red paint on the walls of the Chancellery, calling Merz and his ministers perpetrators of violence. The far-left party Die Linke has tabled parliamentary questions about what weapons...
It's funny that they call the far-left party the left, because that's what Die Linke is, the left. That is the direct translation. Die Linke, the left.
Weapons are sent to Israel, under what circumstances and for what use, but mostly unsuccessfully.
It usually takes 4 to maybe even 6 weeks until I actually get the answers. And then it's just very unclear. It's very much language you know is just meant to not answer, right?
That's because a constitutional court ruling allows ministers to cite national security grounds when answering questions like these. Meaning all we know for certain right now is that German-made items the Israeli military has used in and around Gaza can once more be sent to Israel. Dominic.
Why would you even... Like, I don't even understand. Why do these countries, Germany in this case, have such a hard-on for sending weapons to Israel? Your economy is struggling so badly, you have to send weapons to a country to commit genocide with? What's the logic? Like, okay, do I need honey to soothe my throat whilst doing the stream? No, I could use a cough drop. I could use cough medicine. I could drink more water. I could do any number of things. I choose honey. But I have a lot of things at my disposal. Germany has engineers, science, chemicals. They have rail. They have agriculture. They have manufacturing. They have healthcare and education. They are the leaders in Germany. They are Europe. They are the largest economy in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. What is the largest economy in the EU? Germany. Okay, so I was right. I just wanted to make sure. They are the largest economy in Europe. They don't need to sell an $80 million tank to Israel. Like, they don't need to do that. On principle, they don't need to do that. Like, there is no benefit. Like, again, if you have a multi-trillion-dollar GDP, 50 million, right? Trillion has 12 zeros. Million has 6. Now, you don't have to be an expert at math to know that an extra 6 zeros doesn't show up on a balance sheet. So, even if they're selling hundreds of tanks to Israel, which would be heinous, that would be maybe $1 billion, which barely shows up as a line item. If you have $1,000 and you sold, if you had $1 trillion and you sold $1 billion worth of stuff, it would be the equivalent of having $1,000 and gaining $1. You don't need that fucking dollar. That dollar is irrelevant. So, the fact that Germany is bending over backwards to justify it is the problem. It's the entire problem. Why are you so set on sending weapons to Israel when you know for a fact they're committing atrocities with them? On principle. You don't need it for finances. You don't need it for the optics. You don't need it for morals. You don't need it to support a international relationship because they're the bad guys. It's not strengthening your position in the international community. It's not improving trade. It's not improving anything for Germany other than causing more Germans to be angry and making Germany look Nazi again. What is Germany make Germany Nazi again? Make Germany Nazi again. So MGNA, is that what it is? Because that's the only justification. That's the only thing that is doing. Making Germany Nazi again. Unbelievable. Where's my mouse? Okay, there it is. Well, we are almost done. Thank fucking God. What's this?
Right now, a coup has been confirmed in Guinea-Bissau. Now, earlier today, we heard heavy gunfire outside the presidential palace, just days after general elections took place. Let's have a listen to that.
So they had an election and the army was like, on second thought.
Crowds of people were seen running from near the palace. Two candidates have claimed victory ahead of the release of results on Thursday. The incumbent, Umaro Sissoko Embalo, is seeking a second term. He ran against opposition contender Fernando Diaz and 11 others. Let's go to our correspondent Nicholas Hack, who's live for us in Dakar in neighbouring Senegal. So, Nick, what exactly are you hearing about this coup?
What we heard from this press conference held at the military headquarters, where a group calling themselves the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order, effectively said that it discovered an ongoing plan to destabilize the country, saying with the participation of drug barons, and the aim was to destabilize the election results. Presidential election results were supposed to be announced on Thursday, tomorrow. And so they're just taking over power just as those results were going to be announced. Two main contenders, the incumbent president, Umaro Sissoko, and Fernandez Diaz, both claiming victory. Now, we don't know the whereabouts of the president, but what we know is that the presidential palace is heavily guarded as we speak, surrounded by...
Yeah, let me guess. Someone fighting for the middle to lower classes was pushed out. Yes. And evidently the incumbent used the military to take over the government right before the election results were shared to maintain their fucking power. Now somehow that has gotten a lot more traction than Sudan or Palestine, which is crazy to me. But okay. Like I said, 2025, people. What a fucking year. Like, again, I haven't been streaming very long, so I can't really say that I was talking about this then or the other time, right? But it just seems like ever since the Trump era of politics, international fascism, the rise of the right wing across every country on planet Earth, these past 8 years have just been historical tragedy, historical issue after problem, after crazy circumstance after another. And it's like, we study in school, the 80s, the 90s, the World War II, World War I, the Manifest Destiny era, right? The Middle Ages, the Inquisition, so on and so forth. Like these large periods of time. And honestly, I don't know how kids are going to be able to cover all of the 2020s, honestly. And the 2010s. Not in one classroom. There's no fucking way. So much shit keeps happening. In America. And across the globe. But in America, no less. It's like every day could be its own chapter. Every week could be its own section. Every month could be its own, like, semester. That's how fucked up shit has been in the United States for this year especially. This is what Red Overlord wanted in 2020. This is exactly what he wanted. That's actually what he's attempting to do now. Except the military isn't on board with him. Thank God. Or at least not the active duty military. Apparently the National Guard is gung-ho. I'm going to be a little bit rapid, but we should be good. Oh, wait, that's not the one.
Almost all of Syria's air defenses have been destroyed by Israeli forces. That, according to many people, remains the biggest threat.
So, again, Israel is attacking Lebanon, attacking Syria, attacking Palestine, attacking the West Bank, which is still Palestine, threatening Iran. Notice how they're not necessarily engaging with Iran, though, because Iran pushed back and gave what for. But every other country is being attacked by Israel because they are weakened due to civil war, civil unrest, or political strife.
Israeli incursions and targeting of Syrian military hardware as the biggest threat to Syria's security and territorial integrity. These appear to be surface-to-air or surface-to-surface missile defense systems and were perhaps built during the Soviet era. And all of these rockets that you see here, which have not exploded, well, the fighters here have a theory that these were either out of commission or were decoys. And they say many of these rockets, if you look at them, are pointed towards the cities of Syria rather than towards Israel. Their theory is that the former regime wanted to use its military hardware to threaten the Syrian people and their revolution rather than actually pose a threat to Israel. In addition to external factors, Syria also faces a number of internal security challenges. There have been clashes here in the south, especially in Daraa, with Druze factions. In the north, there has been fighting with US-backed Kurdish fighters and
there we are. It took a minute and 13 seconds, but there's America.
Syrian government forces. And then in the west, in the last 1 year, there have been clashes between the Alawi factions and Syrian government forces. Ahmed al-Shara's administration wants to bring all of these fighters under a unified chain of command, but there have been people who are resisting. And that gives you an idea of the situation that Syria finds itself in today, because unless all of these issues are solved, a united Syria's future remains a question mark.
U.S. interventionism strikes again. Oh, let's see. They're disobeying orders. According to Red Overlord's logic, 1981 to 89 needed to be dealt with for sedition and interfering and undermining Carter to win in 1980. Which, that's kind of the point, right? Everything that comes out of his mouth contradicts something that either they have done in the past or that they are doing currently. So that's why I don't give Trump credence, and I try my best not to give him a platform on my platform because he doesn't deserve it. Speaking of, one of the very few instances of an authoritarian president being held accountable, Bolsonaro.
Brazil's controversial former president has started his equally controversial 27-year prison sentence.
Okay, Brazil's former traitor president is serving his just desserts time for trying to coup his country. What? Why are you reporting it like this as if you're trying to sanitize the man? Controversial. No, motherfucker, he committed high crimes against the state. And he's serving his just desserts.
A small group of supporters held a vigil outside of Brasilia's federal police headquarters, where he will be...
Look, there's like 8 people there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Yeah, 8. Literally 8 people. And then, like, 5 of them are cops.
Held. Bolsonaro's sons denounced the sentence as a miscarriage of justice.
This is cruelty, and it's a very great risk to his health, to his...
That guy really does look like Bolsonaro. Like, there is no doubt in anybody's mind that that is his son.
life.
He's psychologically devastated.
Now, this
Our
guy
job
knows
is to go in there and give him strength.
Bolsonaro was found guilty of attempting a coup d'etat against his successor a week after President Lula da Silva was sworn in January 2023. The former president, a far right-wing politician who has often borrowed from U.S. President Donald Trump's playbook, claimed fraud after losing his re-election bid. The trial has been divisive, with many accusing the lead judge, Alexandre de Moraes, of waging a witch hunt. Among them, Bolsonaro's ally Donald Trump, who in retaliation slapped 50% tariffs on Brazil and harsh sanctions.
How is that a retaliation anyway? We're the one paying that 50%. Who is this reporter? Because she needs to be fucking fired. Lucia Newman, you are an absolutely dog shit reporter. You are trying to sanitize Bolsonaro. Allegedly this, controversial that, and then not, you know what? A Levit's nephew's mom, Brazilian, got taken in by ICE. Right, so that's crazy too. That the Trump administration's close relatives are also getting targeted by ICE. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, I'm certain. And right, Brazil didn't give a damn. Because again, the tariffs don't affect Brazil at all. Oh, you're going to pay 50% more for the coffee that you know you're going to buy from us? Bet. So I don't... at least the motherfucker, Bolsonaro, is serving his due comeuppance, right? So, if Brazil can do it, and if South Korea can do it, why is it America refuses to do it? And look at all these sycophants. Look at this guy. And these two. And this guy looking at Trump with so much love and adoration. Like, these are cultists. I don't know what else to say about it. All right, Al Jazeera. I mean, you have not been batting 1,000. You've been batting like 200.
Budget Day may be the UK financial calendar's most consequential event. What the finance minister decides each autumn in Downing Street soon impacts the entire British Isles.
Chancellor, how much is it going to hurt?
Many taxpayers have recently wondered who the current Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will tax next, and how much.
Well, they've made a lot of promises and broken.
They're going to take some more money off the poor pensioners? How are we supposed to live?
Taking more and more off the working man and giving it to people that don't work.
The town of Works.
Huh. It's almost as if they sound like Americans, but with an accent. That is literally the same fucking arguments and the same complaints that we make here in America, and yet the only thing we do is vote more conservative folks into office to play the same exact game over and over again, while reviling the liberal elements who are in bed with the same conservatives. Y'all need to grow up and just pay the fuck attention. Stop shooting yourself in the foot and supporting people who hate you and have a vested interest in harming you. Start voting for people that are running independent. Start voting for people with an actual human background as a worker. Like, vote for the bus driver. Vote for the machinist. Vote for the damn teacher. And of course, those individuals need to start running as well. Like, we have the solution to our problems. We are our own future. We are the promise of a greater tomorrow. We need to recognize this. And it's not just here in America, it's a global phenomenon. And it's crazy how the entire population is angry about the same things. we're getting taxed, we're not getting any of our benefits, and we're going to blame other poor people that are worse off than we are for it, because that's what we've been told to do. Unbelievable.
WorkSop in Nottinghamshire has voted for Reeves's Labour Party in every general election bar one since 1929. It's a brick in what's called the Red Wall, the belt of Labour seats across England's Midlands and North that had fallen to the blue Conservatives back in 2019, before Labour managed to rebuild it and won last year's national election. But now polls show Labour behind a new political protagonist, a populist party called Reform UK. And across this region, Reform's in control of several local governments.
I voted for Reform. It's only one who's willing to push. He's got the guts to push. This is what we want.
As Reeves finalises national finances considered crucial for her government's success, she may look to a legend of Nottinghamshire.
So wait, did the Labour Party turn into the neoliberal party? Is that what happened? Because I thought the Labour Party was the populist party of the UK. Yeah, I don't know who Farage is, so I don't know. I can't really comment. So Labour was the populist party that turned neolib, and now there's a new populist party that is being treated like extremists. Imagine that.
Now famous worldwide. Not far from WorkSop is Sherwood Forest, home to Robin Hood, the fictional English outlaw who practiced a pioneering style of redistributive economics. Take from the rich, give to the poor.
Imagine that.
That represents a bold brand of budget building that, minus the bow and arrows, members of Parliament on the left of Reeves's Labour Party would dearly love to see. Some of the UK's richest are requesting it too.
I am a millionaire. I can afford to pay more tax. I'd like to contribute more to the country, as would my
So pay more. You have the choice. You literally can write a check. Oh my God. I am a billionaire and I believe I deserve to pay more in taxes. Then do it. There is literally nothing stopping you from doing it. Nothing. You want to know why? Because if I can, on my W-4, determine how much withholdings I want to do for my paycheck, then so can you. From your stock dividends and your holdings and your investments and your profits and this, that, and the other, those all get taxed. And you can, instead of hiring the best tax people and CPAs to make you pay the least, not pay them and just write the check that the government gives you that says, this is what you owe, without itemization and deductions. Like, if you want to pay more, you absolutely can do that right now. Shut the fuck up.
colleagues, so come and tax us.
Phil White is part of a network called Patriotic Millionaires, who's toured through the country to London, making the case for higher taxes on the rich.
So that income from wealth isn't taxed at a lower rate than income from work. That just seems unfair to us.
So much of Britain's wealth is generated here in the City of London, where workers earn almost double the national average. But after Rachel Reeves reversed plans to raise income taxes on ordinary citizens, higher taxes that target the well-paid and the companies that employ them may be almost certain. And unless Reeves can reassure the bond markets that she'll balance Britain's books, financial firms, like the ones around me here that lend the government money, may push public borrowing costs even higher.
Wow. So private banks legitimately, openly lend the government money instead of the rigmarole of what the Federal Reserve is, which is also a private bank that prints American money. Slight difference, but contextually the same. That's like, so the banks really do own the UK. That's crazy.
Beyond London, though, Robin Hood's legend could provide another useful lesson. For the villains of that story were distant rulers, a sheriff and a king, who sought to squeeze too much money from the already impoverished British people. Dylan Marks, Al Jazeera.
It's like the same problems are affecting every single country, and the solutions are the same. Get rid of the people in power, regulate businesses, hold government accountable, and pass laws and legislation and economic policies that help the average person. This isn't rocket science. I know politics is always conveyed as this thing that is esoteric and of extremely high pedigree and so on and so forth, but it's not that complicated. Country get money. Country spend money. Countries spend money on rich people. Poor people don't get money. Government tax poor people. Poor people have less money. Government spend on rich people. Poor people suffer. Round and round we go. Republican government, tax people, give to rich. Democrat Party, tax poor people, give to rich. Round and round we go. Populist, leftist, FDR, Eisenhower, traditional this, right wing that, Tea Party this. Every single one of them do the same exact thing. Give money to the rich and to industry in the hopes it'll make its way back to the people. So, let's try something different. Let's try doing things the right way. Instead of giving money to rich people that we took from poor people, hoping that the rich people make that poor people money more to give back to the poor people, why, and just hear me out, why don't we instead take money from the rich people in industries, regulate the shit out of both, provide safety nets and basic necessities to the people so that whatever people are doing allows them to spend more and live freely without fear of financial crisis. It's almost as if the money that's going to be spent here goes to them anyway. That's how they get the money, because we spend it. So, if we're spending the money and it's going to here, why not take a little bit of this and put it back down here so people can spend more money and make it go back? Crazy thought process that we shovel the money around and pass it back to the bottom where it began. Crazy, I know, but then that means people aren't subjugated and living in fear and stress, which is apparently harder to control, evidently. Because we didn't get back to fascism because the 90s was the precipice of freedom and financial security in the United States history. To where we became complacent, not involved in our government, not involved in our politics, became completely addicted to consumerism and entertainment and travel and whatever else, to where we had our freedoms taken from us, our benefits taken from us, our prosperity taken from us, to the point where we're back to being subjugated. Again, it's actually easier to control a peaceful population than a prosperous one. I don't want to control, I want to govern. I want to make sure that people don't fall into complacency and they continue to fulfill their ideals, right? Enrichment. Prosperity without enrichment leads to complacency, as we have seen historically for the past 12,000 years. Yet our government, and most other governments, seem to think that fear, control, and desperation are the best ways to keep a controlled populace, because that's the only thing they've ever done for the past 12,000 years. With a few exceptions, revolution, right? Every time a revolution occurs, the rich people have to step back and be like, oh yeah, sorry about that. Here's all the money we took from you. And then 10, 20 years later, it's like, bow down, peasant. Literally in the case of the UK. So, we still got 20 minutes left. So, none of these are happy news stories. But this is kind of good.
Well,
EU's influence in Africa is declining. That is good news. Now, let's see how they present it.
Us live now from Johannesburg is David Monnier, an associate professor of political science and international relations at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you for speaking to us. Now, is this summit, do you think, a test to EU's ability to stay relevant in Africa as we see a change in geopolitics?
Oh, indeed. I think the summit comes at the backdrop of a successful G20 summit in Johannesburg. And it also speaks to the ever-shifting geopolitics in which the power of EU as a bloc is fast declining rapidly, whether in relation...
Outstanding! End the clip. Right there. Perfect. The EU's influence in Africa is declining rapidly. Yes! One Africa, Pan-Africa, African independence. Let's go. Just get rid of your colonizer shackles and weights. Just get rid of it. Kick the French out, kick the Spanish out, kick the Germans out, kick the Dutch out. Let's go. I'm here for it.
In relation to the United States or China and other emerging markets such as India. And therefore, I think the EU is trying to reset its troubled relationship with Africa on a number of issues, ensuring that they are not left out on this competition with so many other players entering the African continent.
And of course, as we were just mentioning there, one of those things that's a hot topic certainly for Europe is to stop the number of people that are arriving at its shores from...
Oh, yes, the immigration crisis that you motherfuckers cause. You want to know why there are immigration crises in South America, Africa, and the Middle East? Because of European and U.S. intervention, criminal activity, coup d'etats, overthrows of regimes, and destabilization of those countries, either directly by those countries, by the EU and the United States, or indirectly through their sponsors such as corporations, businesses, and other private interests. Jackson Lash, thank you for the follow. You got me right in the middle of a rant. You came at the perfect time. So yeah, all of these displaced peoples who are fleeing north or south or across the waters or wherever into Europe for safety is directly because of European influence, directly because of American influence. You want to stop the refugee crisis? Stop creating refugees. Plain and simple. Good morning. Well, you must be on the other side of the world because it is from Europe. Oh, from Austria. Servus, wie geht es dir? I know Austrian and German are different languages, but I know that most Austrians can understand German and most Germans can understand Austrian. So, anyway. Just, again, same thing with like the Latin American immigration crisis. Maybe if we stopped trying to overthrow countries like Venezuela, we wouldn't have refugees from Venezuela. Crazy. Right there. Is Servus even still used? Because the last time I was in Germany was like, well, technically it was 2015, but I think the last time I went where I was talking with people my own age was like 2004. That was like 20 years ago. Is Servus even still used? Anyway, that's not the point. That's not the... Anyway, if countries want to stop refugee crises or immigration crises or displacement problems, maybe don't cause them. That's the main takeaway.
Africa, has the real crux of why this is happening been addressed, do you think?
No.
I do not think that they're addressing the issues adequately. There are lots and lots of problems. I think they know the source of the problem. Yes.
What's the source? Come on. What's the source? Tell us the source. Tell us it's them. Say it. Please say it.
Most of them are problems coming from within Africa itself. But
what? You're gonna blame? No, it is not Africa. Africa is the okay. In Austria, still on the countryside among old folks, but not in big towns. So what you're saying is, back in my day, back in the good old boys country towns, we still say sirs to everybody because that's what we did when we were young, hip, and with it. But you youngins, you Gen Zers and alphas, with your wibbly wobbly oh-ha, and that's AI. No, so, well, kinda. I don't typically smoke pipe. I typically smoke cigars. I use it for the prop and to keep my appendages engaged during streams. But yes, I have smoked pipe. I actually really do like pipe tobacco. But pipe tobacco is actually not that easy to come across in America. You can get cigarettes and cigars all day long. You can get weed a lot easier than you can get, like, good pipe tobacco is just not that common anymore. Something I might have to look into, actually. Okay, so we got 10 minutes left. Eat chocolate, drink cognac, and read books. Nice. You know, and that's all the life that we should all be able to live. Like, that should be the dream, right? That's all we want. That's all anybody wants, is to be able to enjoy our vices and watch our little shows and live our normal lives. But instead, no, we have to deal with, you know, imperialism, interventionism, and global atrocities every other Tuesday. Like, no, it's not even every other Tuesday. It's literally every Tuesday. So, all of that to say, we got 10 minutes, so let's see.
Now
What's
to
this?
Italy, where Parliament voted unanimously to introduce femicide as a specific crime in the country's penal code. This is the moment parliamentarians approved the law with no votes against it. It will apply to all murders motivated by hatred, discrimination, domination, or subjugation of a woman because of her gender. The crime.
Wow. I guess, though, I can't imagine that would ever pass in the United States because, I mean, so many crimes against women occur anyway. So many policies and institutions are against women anyway, that even if a law like this passed, they would just find some justification or excuse to say that what it was isn't that. So, that is good news. I wonder what prompted this. And sorry for I'm missing your last comment there, Jason. But yeah, that is the quote-unquote American dream, the worker dream, the regular citizen dream of any country is what you were writing out there. Yeah.
Will now automatically trigger a life sentence. In a symbolic move, the vote marked the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, November the 25th. Well, latest figures show that in 2024, 116 women were killed in Italy. 106 of those are said to be motivated by gender. In recent years, one of the most high-profile cases was the murder of a student brutally stabbed to death by her ex-boyfriend in 2023 and later dumped by a lakeside. The crime shocked the country, triggering a wider debate on violence against women. Well, let's speak now to freelance journalist Silvia Boccardi in Milan, who has been closely following the story. Silvia, thank you very much for joining us on BBC News. How big a moment is this?
Well, it really depends on how you consider the law. So this new law actually strengthens penalties for murders committed in the context of domestic or gender-based violence. And as you were saying, it introduces measures such as life in jail for femicides. It is a bipartisan law, which is significant in a country where usually gender issues are often politically divisive. Some people see it as just symbolic because this law still focuses largely on reactive measures, protecting women after violence has occurred rather than preventing it. And
I was waiting for that. Great. If you harm a woman, your ass is grass. But changing people's brain chemistry and societal cultural norms so that people don't attack women in the first place, that is the problem that needs addressed. Right? Nobody has to make an extra law to say that cannibalism is bad. Because universally, it is accepted that cannibalism All right, we're back. Yes. Awesome. I guess we're going to have to wrap it up here then, because I don't want to risk it. And it's the 11th hour. But suffice to say, now I derailed myself. Right, cannibalism and Nazism. Those things were considered universally horrible, right? Just unacceptable behavior. But now all of a sudden it's okay to be racist, it's acceptable to be misogynist, transphobic, Islamophobic, all these other phobias and discriminatory beliefs and values are being given platforms, are being given credibility in open discourse on news networks and in debates. People are getting elected and using these values and these terms as their platform. And of course, it's being perpetrated and exacerbated by foreign influence. Literally foreign influence, making it worse in our country. So, what we need to do is stop promoting hatred against women and brown people and black people and anybody who isn't lily white in Europe and America and different than the dominant race, and start embracing our diversity in the modern times, because we are a multicultural species. We are just a multiple ethnic, like no country is pure anything now. And those that remain pure are going to stagnate because you are missing the strengths that other cultures, ideas, and viewpoints bring to making a greater society, right? If you continue to stay in your little lane, you can only travel in that lane. And if you're not allowed to deviate, or if you crush any deviation from it, you will only eventually digress or regress, as we are seeing. So, brava that they passed this law, but she is 100% correct. This is not the thing. We had a 15-year-old stabbed today by her father because she disgraced her family by having a boyfriend. That's, and that's in Austria. Like, this isn't in Nigeria, which is suffering its own problems. This isn't in the Middle East. This is happening in Europe. This is happening in America. And it's not even just Muslim or Jewish or, ultra-religious families that are doing this. Sometimes it's just regular, white racism. Just regular discrimination. Right? Like, we've had multiple lynchings in the U.S. recently. We have ICE agents targeting white people as well as brown people. There's no discrimination if you're an illegal. There's just more violence and aggression if you're brown. So yeah, no, it's just our society as a whole is struggling, not because we lack Christian values, but because we are literally not embracing them. Where did we go? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek, the hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful, pure in heart, peacemakers, and those who are persecuted because of righteousness, not because of discrimination, right? These racist motherfuckers, I'm being picked on, right, because you are threatening lives of brown and black people and being a racist fuck. That's not righteousness. It's certainly not peacemaking or being pure in heart or being merciful. So, we're not a Christian nation, nor are we espousing Christian values, because these are the Christian values that are being ignored. That's why I keep these tabs open, just in case this subject matter comes up in stream. Oh, you're half black and half Asian. Okay. See, that is very uncommon in Austria. In terms of the fact that there isn't as much diversity in Austria, that would facilitate that. Like, that demographic makes sense in America because there is a lot of black culture and a lot of Asian culture in America. In fact, I believe it was 15% and 10% total demographics. I'm very curious. Are your parents like multi-generational Austrian? Like, how did they meet? Like, that's just a genuinely interesting pairing. Now, in case, in the sense of Germany, for instance, it wouldn't be completely atypical for Germans and Turkish people, for instance, because there's a lot of Turkish population there now too. But that's getting into anthropology, and that's me being a nerd. So, I'm actually a quarter Filipino. So, countries. Okay, well, it is what it is. Okay, I think. Oh, holy shit! Where did the time go? Oh, that's right. We had that blip where we froze for a second. So never mind. We'll cover this. Actually, we're not streaming. Oh, well, here we go. All right, that's been our stream. That wasn't much of a lead up to the ending. I'm sorry. And for those of you who are joining, I do apologize. This is the end of the stream. We are actually strongly considering changing our hours to 11 p.m., but that's going to be heavily dependent on my work schedule. Because if we end at 11 and I have to wake up at 8, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough because got to wind down, right? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving in the United States of America, and I will be spending time with my family and loved ones, so I will not be able to do a stream tomorrow. But normally, outside of the holiday season, I do stream. We do stream here on Thursdays. And those are, when we stream on Thursdays, it's to recap anything we may have missed or anything new that may have happened between Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesdays are American politics, U.S. politics. Wednesday is worldwide news and politics. And then Thursday, as I just said, recap or anything that may be new. So with that being said, your 48th president, Samuel Ronan, currently running for U.S. Congress. I wish you a great holiday, and if you're not from the United States, just, a good night. And we will see you next week. Samuel Ronan, out.